starts glowing and the film starts rolling. You wanna be knowing what you might be in for. So give the show a listen and find out what you're missing. Put yourself in position with the ears we can score.
Hey listeners, welcome back. I'm not quite sure what you would be saying about this right now because we're in uncharted waters here where I think we're going to organize this as two separate episodes, even though it was originally planned as one. Shrek was just too much for us for 1 week. I don't know, Brian, what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, so we adjourned. We've come back after a full week. I'm sure, listeners, that you consuming the Shrekisode will do it all at one sitting. All the 5 hours or however long it ends up being.
I'm not sure of that, Brian.
But we didn't do it that way. We did not produce it at one stretch. We broke camp last Monday. A whole week has passed and we've reconvened. So what you're going to hear is coverage of, I can't even say the rest of the Shrekiverse, but much of the remaining Shrekiverse. So last time was Shrek 1 through Shrek 3, the trilogy, if you will. And so we got one feature film left, as well as spin-off films, ephemera. We've still got a lot to talk. And because we've been away for a week, I think we can maybe hit some things that we forgot or that we had occur to us in the intervening time.
I think that's fair, Brian. So we do have our brothers back. We each have one of our respective siblings joining us, and that is Andrew from Florida.
Hello.
Hey, Andrew. How's Florida?
It's warm.
Yeah. The week since we recorded the Shrek has been like heat death of the universe hot in Virginia. I don't know about Florida.
Yeah. The week since the Shrek. It has been a weird week.
Do you think our coverage of Shrek influenced the weather?
Oh.
Well, you know how it's like sometimes in fantasy novels, there's like astrological phenomena that portend doom. But like when you actually read the story, it's clear that the doom is done by things unrelated to the outside forces. You know, it's like it just so happened to be that way. I kind of feel that way about our Shrek episode. It's kind of like with Cats and COVID. Like the Cats movie just so happened to be released like a couple of months before the world completely shut down for a year and a half. And maybe the recording of the Shrekisode Part 1 led us into a deadly and historic heat wave. And, you know, it wasn't the cause of it, but like metaphysically they're tied together, you know?
It's like, yeah, it felt poetic. It was a herald of its time, if you will.
Many are saying that about the Shrekisode, a herald of its time.
Which I think at this point must be upgraded from a Shrekisode to a extravaganza. Shrekstravaganza, there we go. That's Shrekstravaganza.
That's harder to say than you'd think.
But it is 2 episodes, so I don't know if Shrekisode is appropriate anymore.
We'll see. So we hit 1 and 2 and 3. You called it the trilogy, Brian, which actually for the first time I made the connection to Toy Story, where you have kind of like 3 movies that made the main arc. And then you kind of had a late appended follow-up, although it really was not that much later, 4th entry. And then a later 5th episode as well. But I guess you would kind of tie 1 through 4 together if you did it chronologically.
It's the same amount of time between 1, 2, 3, and 4. They released them every 3 years. 2001, 2004, 2007, 2010.
Okay. And then we talked about some of the ephemera therein. We talked about Shrek and the Swamp Karaoke Party and Far, Far Away Idol. And who knows what else we talked about. I've blacked out of those 3 hours.
Did we talk much about the Far, Far Away Idol? I guess Simon Cowell came up at one point, which is the important thing to remember from Far, Far Away Idol. And also Prince Charming singing "I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt."
So Brian, place us in 2007. We finished Shrek the Third. Do we want to go over our cleanup thoughts, or do we want to see what was happening in '07?
Place us in 2007. So I was a junior in high school. Well, we had High School Musical 2, and yeah, that was when Shrek 3 came out.
I was in college.
I was 12, and I remember watching the premiere of High School Musical 2 at my buddy's house.
Another Shrek extravaganza from our past is our High School Musical coverage.
So I was 10, I guess, and I saw it on a sleepover, and I feel like even before I went, I had low expectations. I don't know where those came from.
Are you talking about Shrek the Third?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Since we're going back in time, let's just keep going back. Let's power through. Did we have any cleanup thoughts? 1 to 3 bullet points, quick bullet points for things that have occurred to us about the core trilogy of the Shrek canon.
I'm glad I started the trilogy talk after we've shit on 3 so thoroughly. It really is no more essential than 4 is. But I did have some pickups that I wanted to insert here. I mentioned that Shrek 1 was the first DVD we owned. We got our DVD player, our home theater system in Christmas of 2001, and the first DVD that we got for it was Shrek. This DVD just had so many special features. In the early days, they packed them up with special features. But something that the Shrek disc had that I don't know how many other discs ever had this, but I think it was only like 1 or 2 others. A feature called Revoice Studio. Did you ever experience this, Dan?
Don't know Revoice Studio. It's new to me.
Okay, so when I had like 6th grade sleepovers, this is what we would do. Have people come over, we'd do Revoice Studio. And what it is you put the disc into your computer, and it has like kind of like karaoke. Like the screen plays the film scene, and it has subtitles that show the dialogue, but the dialogue track on the DVD is muted, and you can record in the dialogue. So you can dub the film on the DVD, and
Wow.
it stores it in like a dedicated folder on your computer, so that then you can play the film with your dialogue track. So at first we did it like actually keeping to the script, and that was cool. But then we realized that you could just make up your own dialogue. So
Oh,
you could
man.
have like a whole alternate cut of Shrek.
Totally different story.
Yeah. And still some of those alternate lines stick out to me. Like when he says, "Oh, you dense, irritating miniature beast of burden." Our take was, "You are a beast of burden. You burden me."
All right.
Doesn't quite have the same clout, but
That's okay.
when Shrek says it in the movie, that's what I hear.
You burden me.
You burden me.
Okay.
That one to me has the way you said it made me think of "You are a toy," Woody to Buzz in Toy Story 1.
It all comes back to Toy Story. I feel like all conversations of cinema eventually lead back to Toy Story. I was listening to this other movie podcast called the Blank Check podcast, or it might have been a different podcast that had one of the hosts from the Blank Check podcast. And he said that it's a guy named Griffin is one of the hosts of the Blank Check podcast. He said, Toy Story is to me what Star Wars is to the generation before me. It's the thing that made me fall in love with movies and what I relate all other movies to. And it occurred to me that I don't know if that's actually true for me, but maybe it could be true for me. It could be partially true for me. All right, so Brian, you talked about the DVD feature. That's a good one. I feel like more DVD features should come back in vogue. They're good. I miss them, especially commentary tracks.
The advent of streaming kind of killed the special features on DVDs and Blu-rays, because I think a lot of people don't actually get physical copies to like. I mean, rental was like peak for DVD special features. You would rent it, watch a movie, check out the special features. But now, because everything is streaming, most streamers don't include the special features with their copies online. So
So I was talking with someone about this, and I made the case why? Like, it feels like you should be able to support special features on streaming. Maybe even more so. You're not limited by what you could put on a DVD. You can have more interactivity. You could hypothetically even like store stuff. So like what Brian was talking about, you could like persist that, you know? There seems like there's more potential. And they pointed out that one, that costs money, so probably not going to do it. Two, how much would people actually use it? So in general, it seems like the way that these streaming is going is it's like the TikTok, get you to your eyes on the next thing. Like that's the model. It's not like in-depth engagement with the material. And three, particularly movies that are not just like owned by one company like Disney, but things where it gets licensed out to different streamers. The model is like you get the movie file, you know? And so it's like it would be hard to transfer around those special features. So even though you might think like, okay, you can make the case that streaming might actually be good for special features, evidence shows that that is not the case.
I also think that things like special features really thrive in an environment where, as I guess I'll put it, the disc is already in the drive. The menu is up, and you see play, you see scene selection, you see language, and then below that you see, oh, special features. You're already there. Whereas if you're on a stream or you're going to watch a movie, and then you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to watch a different movie, which is probably as easy to access as going to the special features. Whereas in the case of a DVD, you're going to have to actually get up off the couch and change the DVD in the thing, when it's easier just to hit the down arrow a few times and turn on the special features.
I will say some streaming apps have the little extras button, and usually it's just a trailer, which is pretty lame. But sometimes there's more. For instance, Muppet Christmas Carol has When Love Is Gone.
Right. It has When Love Is Gone, and then it also has, you can just play a whole alternate cut that puts in When Love Is Gone.
When Love Is Not Gone.
So this wasn't really like a thought about the trilogy that occurred to me, but I talked to like probably 4 or 5 people over the week about this whole Shrekisode ordeal. A few of the, like every single person expressed to me that they think Shrek 2 is better than Shrek 1, which obviously runs contrary to what I expressed last week and also Dan. But I think there's a groundswell of people who are basically saying, oh yeah, Shrek 2, that one's better than Shrek 1.
There's a Shrek 2 cult. Dan was opining that we've been pelting him with vegetables basically for his anti-Shrek 2 stance, but we'll see where we all land when the numbers come out.
Yeah.
To me, like Shrek 2, the 2 itself is funny. It's like you're already taking this thing and you're making it more ironic and like further separated from core cinema experience, you know? It's like we're pushing the quasi-irony to a new level.
And then I also just had many Shrek anecdotes I didn't account.
You get 3 bullet points.
All right, so the first one there was the Shrek 2 thing. I don't know if I brought up last time the time when I flew on an airplane and I watched Shrek 1 5 times in a row because it was a 12-hour flight. This is when I lived in Japan and I was flying between Japan and America. And I was kind of scrolling through the movies as you do on a 12-hour flight. And I saw that Shrek 1 was on there, and I watched Shrek 1, and when it got to the end, I said, well, might as well watch Shrek 1 again. And so I watched it 5 times in a row, which, if you do the math, is still barely like half of that flight. So even though I watched it so many times, there was still another 5 hours of flying or something like that.
That's pretty wild. I have never had that level of dedication to Shrek. I mean,
Shrekication.
I should express that I was not constantly glued to the screen. I probably didn't even have the headphones on the entire time. I just had a funny vision in my mind of the person sitting in the row behind me being like, he's watching Shrek. Oh, he's watching Shrek again? Maybe he wasn't paying attention the first time. Oh, okay, 3 times now. Maybe he fell asleep. And by the time you get to the 5th time, you've run out of excuses. And you must admit that this man has just watched Shrek 1 5 times in a row.
This wacko's lost his mind.
Mm-hmm. And then one final Shrek anecdote. This is my 3rd bullet point. Is the time it was Easter, and my friends in Japan, they said, "We're gonna paint Easter eggs." I said, "Okay," and I painted my egg to look like Shrek. Everybody else was doing like, cute like bunnies and stuff like that, and I painted mine to look like Shrek. And then we went to like one of those little photo booths that they have where it's called Purikuda, and it's like kind of how to explain, like yassified, like they take the pictures and they blow your eyes up really big and they put glittery effects and stuff like that. I'll link it in the extra media section of the Discord. But essentially, we took Purikuda pictures and then we all left our eggs in the photo booth. And so there was like 4 bunnies and 1 Shrek in the photo booth for the next people to discover.
That is an interesting question. Is Shrek big in Japan? Did they like Shrek in Japan?
Shrek exists in Japan, and I think there was some awareness of him.
Shrek exists in Japan.
Yeah, but so
What a
for
sentence.
example, I'll tell you, no Japanese person I ever spoke to had heard of the Disney movie Hercules, for example, whereas some had heard of Shrek. So for some reason, certain films just didn't have the cultural cachet in Japan. Like one time when I was studying abroad there, we had a movie night, and I said, let's watch Shrek, and it was like a mix of the people studying abroad and the Japanese students. And I think none of the Japanese students had seen Shrek before. So like, it's not particularly popular, I would say.
But Shrek exists in Japan.
Shrek exists in Japan. I think I'm coming off as unhinged in this, like one after another anecdote about this time I made these Japanese people watch Shrek. Okay.
No, this is great. You're a cultural ambassador.
Shrek ambassador.
Yeah, the first in last episode, I did say that Shrek is the movie I've seen more than any other movie, so you can understand why. I probably watched Shrek more on that one plane ride than I've seen like 90% of all movies.
I'm officially tired of the word Shrek. I'm already out on it. Any word you say too much, it loses its meaning.
Shrek yourself before you wreck yourself.
My Shrek anecdotes. One, we've talked a lot about height of men on the podcast before. And I will say that I feel like the thing where guys got to be tall has been bigger the past 10 years. I'm not on the dating scene, so I don't actually know. But I've heard it referenced more the last 10 years in memes than it was when I was in college, for example. Not to say that it hasn't always been like a general concept, but you know. And my belief is that Shrek is responsible for the unrealistic height expectations because it gave short men a bad name because of Lord Farquaad. So that's what I'm blaming. I'm blaming Shrek for bias against short men.
I mean, I think it probably is because dating apps have height listed in the dating profile, but maybe they only put height in the dating profile because of Shrek, because the designer of Tinder wanted to avoid Lord Farquaad's on the app.
Right.
The name Farquaad, is it supposed to sound like fuckwad? Like, is that the point?
Yes.
Okay.
I've heard that referenced many times. Like that's the irreverent part of the irreverent Katzenberg thing is like, oh, he even made the royal sound like fuckwad. Like, I never found that too funny, but sure. I guess you say Farquaad over and over again, like Shrek. It something happens. Another one that I shared with the boys, the team, the squad on chat, is an observation I made my most recent viewing of Shrek. I don't think I shared it in our actual podcast recording last week, but like I said, I've kind of blacked out those 3 hours. But the observation I made is that, okay, when we have the runner throughout the movie of really, really, so like someone says really, and another character says really, really, and like that's kind of a cool, recognizable thing. It's like I like it when movies do that. It's almost like a cheat code to like make a film feel more unified and have it rhyme, as George Lucas might say.
It's like, just say a thing again and you'll automatically have nostalgia for it. It's like, it happened 65 minutes ago, but oh, I remember that.
I do like that though. I know it's cheap, but so okay, ready. That's really, not ready. Really. That's the one of Shrek's. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't go check the movie, watch it through just to confirm this, but I'm pretty sure we hear really 3 times throughout the movie. The first 2 times is between Shrek and Donkey. The third time, Fiona says, I don't know, like, do you love me or whatever? And Shrek says, really. And then he makes a knowing look on his face. But I don't think Fiona was there for either of the times that really was said. So, like, why is he saying really and making this face like it's this really meaningful thing. He's like, what's going on here? And maybe is this a sign that Shrek is actually in love with Donkey and not Fiona? That's my projected reading on there.
Well, I think Donkey is the first one to actually say the really, really thing.
Right.
Because when Shrek says, "Doesn't that bother you?" and he says, "No," and he says, "Really? Really, really?" So Donkey is actually the first one to do it.
So really, it's like the thing with Jack and Fabrizio on the bow of Titanic when Jack thinks, "Hey, this is a place to bring a girl." You know, got to do this again.
And I did just Control F in the script, and it comes up like 5 times, but most of them are not the really, really. One of them is during the Robin Hood song. They say he's really, really mad. And the first one is when you was really, really, really something back there. Incredible is what Donkey says. That's the first time. But the other ones are all the really, really.
Okay. All right. Third one. We talked about some of the great and iconic line readings that are just etched in our brain. One I don't think we gave shout out to is when Donkey praises Shrek's boulder. He says, "I like that boulder. That is a nice boulder." I feel that raised the stock of the word boulder in my life a lot. It's like I have more appreciation for the word boulder because of Shrek. Like these little ripples that Shrek has brought into my life. One is appreciation of the word boulder.
Boulders and waffles saw their stocks increase due to. And in the morning, I'm making waffles.
I think parfaits too have gotten a boost.
Big one, yeah. It's like in when Frozen came out, Fractals got a big bump.
I think when I was 11, I didn't even know what a parfait was. I was like, "What is that?"
I think SpongeBob might have a better grasp on Boulder, though.
Really?
Oh, yeah, for a certain age.
It's not just a boulder; it's a rock.
The pioneers used to
Yeah.
ride these babies for miles.
Yeah.
That's what that's a SpongeBob thing. I think, Dan, you're a little too old for SpongeBob, right?
I've seen some SpongeBob, but I was just a couple years too old to like really get swept away into it.
Since we brought up SpongeBob, and I promise I'm going to tie this in, one of the things we're going to talk tonight is Shrek the Musical. Well, I just saw SpongeBob the Musical. I mentioned a few weeks back that I was hyped to see it. I have now seen it. I thought it was fantastic. I would give the SpongeBob Musical an 8.
Wasn't this the one that you referred to as minimalist?
That's what I called it. I don't know if that's accurate. But so the thing is, what I talked about previously on the podcast is that when you see the characters in the SpongeBob Musical, they're not wearing Times Square mascot suits. They're humans with little costume details that suggest the cartoon character that they are. So SpongeBob has the pants, which he basically has got like lederhosen on, but he's a guy. He's just a man with, you know, like a prim and proper and a high squeaky voice and things to evoke SpongeBob. And Plankton, who's got one eye, has an eye patch. And like Mr. Krabs has claws on his hands. But they're people. And
They're simulacra of the characters, right? That's the word, right?
that's right. It's like the allegory of the cave. You're just getting shadows on the wall.
There you go.
But what was fantastic was, so like other musicals, you've got a pit orchestra, but like in front of everything, there's this guy sitting front and center who is a Foley artist and is doing cartoon sound effects right in the middle of everything. And like every time SpongeBob takes a step, he has this little thing that he squeaks. It's like, "Wiki!" And it's like everything throughout the whole musical is choreographed with this sound effects artist who's really leaning into the idea that these are not humans, these are cartoon characters. And just the way that they did that throughout, I thought was excellent. And some of the music is by Jonathan Colton, who did the funny Portal songs.
Oh, he's done he has a long career of doing funny music.
Yeah. So I really dug it. I strongly recommend, if you get a chance to go see the SpongeBob musical, go and do it.
So it's 2007. Shrek 3 has come out. Landed with, I don't know, it's landed with something. A thud? Well, what has it landed with, Brian?
So it actually made money. It made decent money, and that's why we got Shrek 4. But critically not well received.
And so after Shrek 3 came the next spin-off. And this one was a little different from the Shrek in the Swamp Karaoke Dance Party, and Far, Far Away Idol, and that was Shrek the Halls. So do we want to dive into Shrek the Halls now, or do we want to save all the ephemera for the end? Are we going chronological, or are we going like corpus, key works, and then the asterisks?
So here is my thought. I feel like the Shrek in the Swamp, Karaoke Dance Party, and Far Far Away Idol are more tied to the feature because they were stuck right there on the VHS tape. Whereas the other stuff, the TV specials, I'm comfortable shoving that aside for now.
Okay.
I think Shrek the Halls just breaks the flow too much.
Yeah, we can mop that up at the end, I'd say.
All right. Well, then I guess we jump ahead 3 years to Shrek Forever After from 2010. So this is, I believe, the first one that is fully directed by Mike Mitchell. We didn't really talk too much about who directed movies. We did a little bit offline. I don't know. I can't remember if we did or not when we were recording last week.
The first two were by the same guy, right?
Right, I believe so. So Mike Mitchell took over. This was also the first one where they moved from the outsourced animation to in-house animation, so the actual DreamWorks studio. So, Brian, if we had to describe Shrek Forever After in a sentence, like you pitch it to someone, what is Shrek Forever After?
It's a Wonderful Life, but Shrek.
Okay, that's very similar to what mine would have been.
What, did you have a sealed envelope? Did you write something down?
No, that's pretty much what mine. That's what I was fishing for. So, or I was curious if you got to that exact same place that I did too. So
This is I might have seen Shrek 4 before I saw It's a Wonderful Life. For reference, I didn't see it right when it came out. I saw it maybe a year or two after it came out because we were so underwhelmed by Shrek 3. It's like we finally just thought, well, we got to finish it out. Got to see what they did. Let's rent it. And it's better than Shrek 3.
Shrek Forever After meets Jimmy Stewart is Brian's pitch for It's a Wonderful Life.
And Jimmy Stewart's going to come back later because he gets parodied in a different Shrek movie.
Right.
Looking at the poster on Wikipedia, it doesn't even say Shrek Forever After. It says Shrek the Final Chapter 3D, which I don't know why it doesn't say Shrek Forever After. That's interesting.
Wikipedia has a quote from Jeffrey Katzenberg, like in the development of the film. He says, it will be titled Shrek Goes Forth, because Shrek goes out into the world. Forth! Then the next sentence of the Wikipedia article is, it was subsequently retitled.
It's a Wonderful Life, but obviously, whereas the story arc of It's a Wonderful Life is the first 3/4 of the movie are spending time with this character and understanding why his life is good. We already know that Shrek has a perfect life.
So it's still the first 3/4.
Yes. So we spend a lot more time in the world in which Shrek was never born than we do in It's a Wonderful Life.
So the setup for this, we have our villain this time is Rumpelstiltskin, who is a magic deal maker. That's the phrase used on the letterboxed description of the film. Magic deal maker Rumpelstiltskin, who, by the way, we saw Rumpelstiltskin, I think it was in Shrek 2, wasn't it?
No, it's in Shrek 3, because he says, you never got the firstborn you were promised, or something like that. It was one of the cobbled together villains crew that Charming had in Shrek 3.
The movie opens with a flashback, and the flashback is to when Fiona was a kid. I think it's when she's a kid.
It's when she gets rescued, actually.
Oh, you're right. Because she does get rescued.
Yes.
So the king and the queen meet with Rumpelstiltskin, and Rumpelstiltskin promises that he can, cure her of her ogreness or something like that and rescue her?
Yeah, get rid of her curse, I think is what the deal is.
And they're just about to sign it when they get word that Fiona's been rescued, so the deal is called off. But what we recognize immediately is that it's a monkey's paw situation where you think you're getting what you want, but you're actually losing something more important.
Right, it's a quibble, as we talked about long ago when we did our Bedazzled double feature.
Also, I'm going to be honest, the deal that they're making is preposterous. They say, we will get rid of your daughter's curse. In exchange, you sign over your kingdom to me? It's like, come on, there's got to be too many inhabitants of the kingdom for this to be, like, even briefly considered.
Then we jump forward to the present. So you'll recall astute listeners and Shrek viewers, that Shrek 3 concludes with the birth of three baby ogres. They have names, but I don't remember what the names are. Two boys and one girl.
Fergus, Sparkle, and Felicia.
There he is. What's power rank them for me, Andrew? Best to worst.
Felicia's at the bottom, and then I would say Farkle number 1, Fergus number 2.
Okay. We got a Farkle guy out there.
Farkle's just funny.
Fergus is sounds like a bully from like a Christmas Story or something like that. And that guy's name was what, Scott Farkas or something like that?
Oh yeah.
Will is Team Fergus.
I'm pro Fergus.
We just watched a movie where that guy was the star. He was Postal Guy.
Oh yeah.
Scott Farkas.
So, anyways, in the present, Shrek is a dad, and it's, I believe, their first birthday. It's now been like over a week since I watched Shrek. That's one problem with deferring it for a week. I probably could have refreshed myself a little bit.
It is their first birthday. They're going. It's like a family restaurant, big gathering with all the chaotic fairy tale creatures have come to the first birthday of Shrek's children.
And we see that Shrek is getting worn down by all of this. He's now kind of like a local legend because of all of the things that he's done in the first three movies. And he also has like this retinue of characters he's accumulated over the series. There's Fiona and the kids and Donkey and the other fairy tale creatures. And then these other people are showing up. And he's just worn down. He's sleep deprived. He's annoyed at all the crying and the pooping and the shenanigans. He's overstimulated. And he's getting brought to his limit here in the opening minutes of Shrek 4, Shrek Forever After. And I would say we get basically right off the bat that this is less of a joke conveyor belt and more of a Shrek character piece.
We're doing the serious Shrek.
Yes. We're it's like a hard pivot back from Shrek 3 and I would say even 2 that were much more about joke delivery. 2 was a little more balanced, but still felt like compared to Shrek 1, Shrek 2 was trying to, ratchet up the punchlines per minute.
It's jokier for sure.
And then Shrek 3 basically has no purpose except to be riffs and jokes. But here we're going the opposite direction. Fewer jokes and more, might not go so far as to call it pathos, but certainly like character-focused conflict. And, one of the things I praised about Shrek 1 was that I felt like it had a really good balance of the jokes and the more serious story. Not serious, but like sturdy backbone of a story that you could care about and good character development and all that. And Shrek Forever After seems to be correcting, maybe you could say overcorrecting, I don't know, away from jokes and into character-based story. I don't know. But in this opening bit, I think we get the most iconic, the thing I've seen referenced most about Shrek 4, which is this one kid at the party who keeps following Shrek around and says, "Do the roar, do the roar." So is this something that stuck with any of you guys?
That's largely all I remember from Shrek 4 as well.
Do the roar.
It definitely was the bit I remember the most being referenced.
Do the Roar definitely got memed. What surprised me this watch, and I'd seen this once before, but every time the ogres roar in this movie, they say roar. They say the word, which is not how he roared in the first film. He just went, ah, which is what I would expect a roar to be. But here they literally say, roar. I don't know. That comes off as fake to me.
Have competitions for roars and it's just screaming.
So you're saying it's performative roaring, Brian?
That's my take, yes. They're LARPing.
One thing that is indicated in this is that Shrek is sort of divorced from ogre culture because they explain the trumpet ears in this one, and he didn't know about that. So perhaps it is ogrely to say roar, and he just had not realized until he went into an alternate dimension.
Hold on, you're getting ahead of this, Will. So we gotta get unwished first. So he's frustrated at the party. He roars, but it was like actually a roar of anger. And then he smashes the cake, and everybody loses their cool, and he storms outside. And Fiona's mad at him. And then who does he bump into but Rumpelstiltskin, who has this. We didn't really talk about what he looks like. The first time I watched this movie, I thought he was really annoying. And I actually liked him more the second time around. He's got like a distinctive voice. And isn't the director the voice actor or something like that?
Okay, so you're combining two anecdotes. The voice actor went on to direct Trolls 2 and was a co-director of Trolls 1. And basically he has been a part of DreamWorks for a long time, and then they're like, "Hey, you could voice Rumpelstiltskin." And now he's one of their director stable.
I'm pretty sure he was a writer. He was like a storyboard artist and a writer, and then he had done like the sort of in-place dialogue for Rumpelstiltskin, and they thought it was good, so they cast him as the part officially.
And the agreement he makes with Shrek is that Shrek is going to give away one of his past days, and in return, he will get a day burden free to himself. But what the fine print said is that it could be any day from Shrek's past, and so the day that Rumpelstiltskin takes is the day that Shrek was born. So now Shrek has not been born, so he does get a day to himself, but all of the things that Shrek has done to alter the world are no more.
Just I want to pause and say that I like that the writers held back a little bit. They didn't make him want to completely get rid of his family. You still kind of are in Shrek's corner here because he just wants a day. It's like he wants a break. It would have been very easy to go full on like jerk ass Homer, like, oh, he wants to go back to being an ogre and get rid of his family completely, and still tried to force the same lesson. But I like that they made him still mildly sympathetic, and they made the deal more measured. He just wants a day to himself to take a deep breath and go back to, the way the status quo that was at the beginning of Shrek 1. So again, going on that sort of this is a Shrek character piece, I just like that they were a little bit even-handed in the deal construction rather than making it full-on Shrek hates his family type of deal.
They put a lot more thought into what makes Shrek an interesting protagonist. A good balance of both sympathetic and kind of grating in the way that he was in the first movie. In some ways, it harkens back to the first movie in some pretty concrete ways.
It does a lot, I think, very deliberately.
Okay, so then basically the rest of the runtime is devoted to looking at the way different characters, mostly characters, but like places and scenarios are different with Shrek not around. And so we get like some familiar beats, mostly from Shrek 1, but reversed or darkened. And this is kind of like It's a Wonderful Life, where you see characters that you got to know over the first 3/4 of that movie in worse scenarios. And obviously the main one and kind of the darkest one is that Fiona was never rescued, and he goes up to the tower and she's like marked thousands of tally marks and stuff in there, but he eventually finds her, and she is, as Will said, part of like this ogre culture, and it is not explained. Do these ogres exist? I think they do exist in the regular reality, because I think we see them at the end when things get righted, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, but I think they pull stuff from the other, like you see the Pied Piper and stuff like that.
I'm just talking about the ogres.
Yeah, I know, but I think all of those characters are they come back at the end in the final like celebration, but it feels like that's almost neither here nor there.
Like a merging of the universes or something?
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like it fits within the continuity very well.
So there's a lot going on here. And I actually, I think there's another piece of context that is important here, which is that I already kind of mentioned it when you had the animation studio reorganizing as this was being made. But DreamWorks itself was going through a big shift. They were raising the bar for both their storytelling and the quality of their animation, and kind of consolidating and like charting a path for the studio as a whole, away from just churning out picture after picture that were all kind of in a similar mold. And so I think you see both more ambitious storytelling, like we've talked about, but much more ambitious animation. There's more set pieces that use space and physics than there ever was in Shrek 3. The lighting is far more interesting. The compositions are the best they've been since Shrek 2 or 1. And the quality of like the textures and the character animation is clearly they've invested time in it. And this is also right around the time the Kung Fu Panda movie came out and How to Train Your Dragon came out. And so I think this kind of rode the wave of that and is trying to course correct, not just in the storytelling style, but in like the amount of polish and ambition that's within the film compared to, yeah, Shrek 3, but just in general, what DreamWorks was known for at the time.
This was the same year as How to Train Your Dragon, right?
I think Kung Fu Panda was 1 year before this. I think How to Train Your Dragon was this year. And then I think Puss in Boots was 2011. And so we meet. Some of that makes sense. Like he runs into Donkey. Donkey doesn't know him. And it's kind of interesting because he's got to convince Donkey that they're friends. So he actually has to like revisit why in the first place was I ever friends with Donkey? And so to me, it's not just that he undoes his birth and that's like, oh, he's got to realize what he loved all along. But it's almost like metatext. It's like Shrek's series being like, what have we wrought? We've made this just mess of a trilogy, as Brian called it, and characters and spin-offs and stuff. And where did it all come from? Let's go and look back at that. Like, was it bad that we made it? What would life be like without it? And it ultimately lands on maybe we still need it, but I don't know. It feels like a bit of a self-reckoning, a Shrekening, if you will.
And yeah, you mentioned that Fiona's alternate fate might be the darkest, and I have a couple of thoughts on that. First of all, I think we talked about in the previous one, she's been in that tower for like 18 years or something like it's some really long time. Meanwhile, I think the time between Shrek 1 and Shrek 4 is like less than 2 years. So she was real close to her breaking point when Shrek finally rescued her. And then also Donkey's fate of being like this beast of burden, literally, who drags the cart and gets whipped. Like it's kind of a funny bit, him being like a radio station and they whip him to change the channel. I thought that was a funny bit. But then it's that one I felt was also quite dark, and it manifests itself. Donkey looks really scraggly. Like he looks like worse than he did even at the start of Shrek 1 as far as how groomed he is.
Right, he's like very woolly. And I thought it was a cool look. They really seem to have in Shrek 4 put effort into keeping the same like character style guide, but really upping the animation quality. Like you can see, a little bit of translucency to Shrek's skin, and it's just, oh, they're getting a little fancy here. And the extra hair on Donkey, I feel, was part of that.
So let's follow that thread for a second. I think it looks pretty different. Like they've really spent a lot of time and effort making it. The character designs are just a little bit different. The texture and facial expression and models are a little different. Shrek 5 has been getting a lot of pushback because they have kind of taken these models into even more stylized directions with like, I don't know, changing the teeth a little bit and making Shrek look older, and Donkey kind of has like a more, I don't know how you describe the look.
Like cartoony, comic booky type of feel.
Yeah. So how do we feel about this? Are we in the backlash committee, or are we good with it? We feel like change is necessary as time passes.
I'm gonna let Brian speak to this before I step in.
I'll start us off, and then I want to let Andrew loose. But we're both in the camp of lashing back. I mean, I guess they're taking a style page from the book of Puss in Boots 2, which did really well, and is kind of doing the whole like Spider-Verse kind of cell shady thing, where it's like they got the very bright eyes and kind of the choppier frame rate to indicate action. And the thing that bothers me, and okay, it bothers me when people say, oh, it's just better technology. Oh, it's not very different. Okay, both of those things are wrong. Like, you can argue that it's a stylistic choice, that they get to make, and you can argue that it's better. Maybe you feel that way. It is different. It is a difference that was consciously made different. So what bothers me, the noses are quite different. And that's not something that changes like over the course of your life. You know, your nose might get a little bigger, but like the whole shape of your nose is not going to change by itself. And Shrek's nose looks very different. And the contours of his cheeks, to me, look quite different. I have a friend that I knew a little bit in high school, have since reconnected with more, and she is a plastic surgeon now. And on Instagram, she posts the pieces that she cuts out of people, which I don't know if that's actually allowed. Like, I feel like that's crossing some boundaries. I'm not going to name names here, but it's my favorite horror show because it's very gruesome, and she performs like nose jobs and neck lifts, and the big thing that seems in vogue these days that really changes the contours of the face is buccal.
Fat removal, right?
Yeah, it's taking out the cheek pads. It's Millie Bobby Brown and folks, and it's strange, but she does that, and I think that's what Shrek has had done. And I don't know what Fiona has had done, but her face looks different.
Are you saying I thought you were leading to her posting that she had done plastic surgery on Shrek, the reveal,
Or to make someone look like Shrek.
yeah.
Andrew's turn.
Oh, I was so in depth with everything Brian was saying. I would,
Do you just want to rubber stamp it? You agree?
yeah, he brought up lots of points I agree with.
Okay, so you is it like annoying or is it travesty? Like, what's the level of desecration we're talking about here?
I have come to accept the ogres.
Me too. I have come to accept the ogres.
I think Fiona looks the most normal. The children were always gonna be very scary, so like however they look is out of my control. But Donkey, we're gonna act like Donkey looks normal. I don't know about that. And then we're gonna find out when it actually comes out what all the other. I mean, Gingy looks a little funky, but Donkey is really the worst of it.
This fucking world is so fucked.
What did they do to us? So for me, I kind of as a rule of thumb, I find myself to be anti-outrage in general. When I find large swaths of people getting outraged at what I consider to be relatively minor issues, I find myself to be incredulous of them. So, as Brian said, the designs are different. I'm not going to deny that they're different. However, I don't really see what the big deal is. I think DreamWorks has a pretty good track record with these. I am willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not going to write off the movie. If the movie comes out and it's the Emoji Movie but with Shrek characters or something like that, then maybe we can have a more concrete conversation. But I'm not going to write it off just because they don't look as they once looked.
Yeah, I mean, it's 19 years since Shrek 3, so what did Andrew say? I have come to accept the ogres. It makes sense that they'd be grown up and they'd have their distinctive features.
Oh, I only said that I took quarrels with Donkey. But what about the humans?
Have we seen many humans?
I guess we haven't seen them. I don't know. But, okay, so my thought is, I don't think anybody said anything outright wrong here at all. Like, I think it's DreamWorks in particular, but CGI in general has shifted away from photorealism and more towards stylization and cartoonish character designs. And I also think it might have been a mistake to make the nose. Like, really, if you do it side by side, Brian's right. It's the nose. It's like the middle part of the nose has drawn down more. And pretty much everything else about the face is pretty recognizable. Could be a little older and droopier, and like maybe they reshaped it a little bit, but like feels like Shrek. But something about the nose just makes the whole thing feel off to me. but I also don't care. I think it's fine. I think you're gonna get used to it after 5 minutes of watching the actual movie, and you can be mad if you want to be mad about it. And I respect you feeling as if it betrays Shrek, but I don't. I do not feel that way. I do not hold Shrek and the ogres into such high esteem that that's gonna bother me. Donkey does look kind of weird, but it's like, again, if you were watching it without having really known Donkey in the past, you might say that's just a donkey, you know, like it wouldn't bother you that it doesn't look like the other donkey. But they definitely changed his look. His distinctive thing now is his hair is like kind of spiky upwards. And I don't know, it's like less of a humanized donkey face and more of like a leaning into the donkey features or something.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely had the mohawk in the original design, but it's way more pronounced and like wider and broader. And I think his whole head feels like almost more pointy. It's hard to say. But yeah, again, there's some argument to be made that Shrek's all of the original designs are kind of ugly. So
I made that point, and I feel that way. It does.
yeah, so
But I think you could have evolved it without having it be quite so jarringly different.
yeah.
And yeah, I'll be curious what the humans look like too, as Andrew said.
They're gross.
He's locked in on it. So Andrew, are you gonna like protest Shrek 5 and not see it?
No, I'll suck it up and watch it.
But you'll be a man.
I won't even be a man. I'll be there day one.
Why you have to be mad? He's only Shrek.
Are you gonna throw onions at the screen and protest?
Tomatoes and onions. For sure.
You got to start a good salad there. So, Shrek 4.
Okay. There's an ogre society now. They end up with the ogre society. Question. Puss in Boots is there. Why is he there? Doesn't make any sense. He's fat now. What's going on with Puss in Boots and Shrek 4? This is where the movie started to lose me. It was like, we gotta get back all the characters, so we're gonna contrive ways to mash them all together.
Exactly. Puss in Boots is there because Puss is the fourth most important character in the Shrek canon. I really think Puss in Boots is kind of awful in all of the Shrek movies. Like, he doesn't have anything really in any of the Shrek movies. He's kind of a punchline character in Shrek 2 with like the big eyes. I think Puss in Boots is a folklore character, and they were just bringing that in with Antonio Banderas, and Banderas always gives a good performance as Puss in Boots, but like he doesn't do anything in any of these Shrek movies that he's in.
He's kind of the Gimli and what's the name? Wait, Gimli's the dwarf.
Legolas.
Yeah, he's the Gimli and Legolas. He shows up there and he's memorable, but he doesn't really have any bearing on the plot.
I agree with what Dan said. I think he's funny. I thought it was a good addition in Shrek 2. I love Antonio Banderas as Zorro, and then they're like, well, what if that, but ineffectual? Like, comically just a cute little animal, and I think it works well enough. Maybe it doesn't make sense that he's here in 4, because how would the absence of Shrek really affect Puss in Boots? It seems like he'd just be doing what he was doing.
Right. He's like a killer assassin.
He does have one of the funny, like, darker punchlines, which is when he eats the gingerbread man late in the movie, which I found funny both times I watched the movie.
So, Dan, had you seen Shrek 4 before this week?
Yeah, this was my second time watching it. I watched it around the time Puss in Boots 2 came out, because I wanted to have seen the whole Shrek canon at that point, or what I thought was the Shrek canon. Little did I know. All right, so it ends with Shrek finding a loophole where he can get his life back if he gets Fiona to once again give him his true love's first kiss. So again, kind of like, did he and Fiona just fall in love because of circumstance? Not quite propinquity. Brian and I were just reflecting, by which I mean I was reflecting, that propinquity is a concept we used to talk about fairly frequently, but hasn't come up a lot on the podcast recently, which is that you tend to feel affection for the things that you are physically close to. So was it just the circumstance that led Shrek and Fiona to fall in love, or was there really some spark there? Some magical connection? And again, I like this concept. I feel like it's good at like re-engaging with the core conflict and scenario of Shrek and his character, and Fiona too. Because I feel like the later movies also kind of lost the thread on Fiona to some extent too.
Yeah, she was kind of just the moral backbone that, hey, like, there to say a nice thing to make sure he does what's right. And so this one sort of gave her a little bit more to do as a character than Shrek 2 or 3.
And they like fight back against Rumpelstiltskin and manage to fall in love and have their kiss just in time. And the world kind of vanishes and he ends up back at the party, but just like in It's a Wonderful Life or just like in A Christmas Carol, he's seeing everything with new eyes, new appreciation. And when his kids are whining, he's not like, shut up, you dang kids. He's like, you know what? There's something miraculous about kids, ogre kids in my life.
Zuzu's petals.
Farkles, I don't know what.
Oh, he has the little doll that's basically
Oh, yeah.
that he was squeaking. Yeah, it does a few things that I don't like. For one thing, there's a few like really on the nose script moments where he basically outright says, "Oh, I didn't appreciate what I had to Donkey." Like it very much just hammers you over the head with, "Oh, this is what the character conflict we're going through here," which is forgivable in a kids movie, I guess. But it does have there's a lot of moments that really made me laugh and like it has more rather than like having a maximum jokes per minute. I feel like there were higher impact jokes here, and some of them were hit and miss. The whole waffles bit, that's obviously just a callback to Shrek 1. I'm making waffles. And there's a few other ones that I like.
Well, another thing is that it's the jokes are less pop culture-y. There's some of that, but it's less like, oh, it's a high school movie, but they're talking in Shrek ways. Talking in Shrek ways.
Yeah.
What a terrible thing to do. No, just kidding. Or like it's cops, except it's Shrek. Anyways.
I appreciate that they have like Shrek is basically just spends the middle third of the movie trying to convince Fiona to kiss him, and then she finally acquiesces and does. But because they haven't formed that connection, it doesn't count as a true love's kiss. But I think the joke that made me laugh the most is when Donkey's trying to find the exit clause of the contract, and he's like folding up the contract, and he's like, "This is it. Try lose bliss," instead of a true love's kiss. That one made me laugh pretty hard.
My favorite one is when he says, I think it's in this one, or is it in 3, where he says, "I'm not a dog. If I was, my name would be Dog." Okay. I mean, I guess I hadn't really thought too much about the fact that the character is named Donkey. Like they didn't come up with a new name for him. He's just Donkey.
Yeah, that was a good delivery. I like the whole set piece with the Pied Piper who shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been recruited because he's got the powers where, he can compel people to dance and follow him. And so he's got like a mode switch on his flute that he can control different kinds of creatures. So he's got an ogre mode that he can set it to, and then all the ogres have to dance like the red shoes from Hans Christian Andersen.
Or blood bending in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Right, so they're being puppeted around. And the way that they're kind of sucked into this and like having dialogue while they're doing the forced dancing, I thought this was cool. I remember back in like 2012 when I saw this movie, I was like, "Ooh, this is kind of neat." It's animated and all kind of choreographed, and there's like multiple things going on, and at the same time, it's kind of funny.
I like how like they try to do the romance between Donkey and Dragon in the other universe, and it does not go well because he doesn't have like the seduction moment that he has in Shrek 1. And I like Rumpelstiltskin as a villain. I like at least that he feels distinct from all the previous Shrek villains. It's like a new angle.
Agreed. So, Andrew, where's your head at as you're watching Shrek 4?
I like Rumple quite a bit. You're asking a lot of me.
I don't know if they are.
I mean, I've got my ranking ready.
Okay.
I guess that's really all we do here.
Yeah.
It comes down to the numbers game.
Yeah.
Rumpelstiltskin has a creepy goose.
Fifi, I think his name is.
Oh yeah, with like the goose teeth.
I don't like the goose teeth. One thing I do not like about this movie is the inclusion of goose teeth.
No opinion on goose teeth, but I will say this movie has some horror to it. Like some of the moments are tinged with horror, which you would not say about anything in Shrek 3 at least.
I like the bit where he's going around the table with the cup of water, scaring the witches, which are all based off of the Wicked Witch of the West. It's like a gangster movie where he's got a gun or something, but instead it's a glass of water, which I found amusing.
Oh man, when they first come to Rumpelstiltskin and the alternate timeline has been established, and here Rumpelstiltskin is rich and successful, and it's like the Hell Valley and Back to the Future too. And he's like holding court in this witch nightclub. I really liked the production design in this place and the music that was playing. It's like, I want to go to the witch nightclub.
Okay, we've made it through Shreks 1, 2, 3, and 4.
One might say all the Shreks.
To date, I suppose. At least the feature-length Shrek films that are titled Shrek. But there are 2 spin-offs, and they are both Puss in Boots movies. The first one came out in 2011. It had Antonio Banderas reappear, and it very notably has essentially zero connection to Shrek other than the fact that it's a Puss in Boots is a character from Shrek. It's not visibly the same world as Shrek, although there's definitely some fantasy, fairy tale type creatures in it. But it's basically just like it's a separate adventure movie that's a little bit Zorro, a lot Zorro, a little bit of a Western, a little bit of a revenge flick.
And a little bit Indiana Jones. Like the Pusses,
Yes.
They've got to go after a magical artifact.
Again, it came out a year after Shrek 4, so it didn't like intercut with the other ones. I guess it's the same universe because at the end of Puss in Boots 2, there's an allusion to the Shrek universe, but up until then, it may as well be completely separate. It's got a lot of interesting stuff going on, and it's operating in a storytelling mode that's extremely different from the Shreks. Although you can see some of it coming in Shrek 4, I would say. And it kind of opens with this set piece that's like a robbery, and it turns into there's this other cat burglar, and he gets in this like elaborate duel with this cat burglar who I thought was obvious from the start, but it's treated as a surprise reveal, is a woman. So she's kind of the foil throughout this first movie, and she appears in the second movie as well. And voiced by Salma Hayek, who I get confused with Penelope Cruz sometimes. But anyways.
That's fair. Penelope Cruz plays a very similar part in Pirates of the Caribbean 4.
Okay. So I think there's more to what I just said, but in the mood and the style. So Brian, we kind of listed what some of the influences are, but tell us a little bit, what's the style of this Puss in Boots movie, or what's going through your head as you're watching this?
All right, so I'm going to be honest about this one, is that when we do a week where we watch a whole bunch of stuff in the 1 week, it's like my attention starts to wane a little bit. Certain things start to slip through the cracks. We didn't know this was going to span 2 weeks. We could have spread the movies out, perhaps, but I think I kept track of the plot.
So what I'm mostly fishing for here is, do you feel that this evokes, for example, The Mask of Zorro, which it's clearly inspired by?
So The Mask of Zorro is one of my favorite movies, and I think the introduction of Puss in Boots in 2 nails it. Just, we get it. We get that that's the joke. That here is that character back again, but he's in a cat's body. And so I guess that's the impetus of the spin-off Puss in Boots series. I had never seen, of the movies, this is the one that I had never seen this week. Puss in Boots 1. So it was new to me. So I came into this one fresh. What about you guys?
Well, I'd seen parts of this movie once before in the waiting room of the dentist's office many years ago. And I hate the dentist, so I had strong negatively associated memories with this movie. I think it was like the sort of climax with the giant goose, which we'll get to. And I was like, this looks dumb. And also, I'm probably about to go get my teeth drilled. So those were my memories of Puss in Boots 1 before this past week.
So this movie gets me on its wavelength from the start. I think the opening set piece is really cool. It makes Puss in Boots much more of a badass. Like that was the thing when Puss in Boots is introduced in the second movie, he's a badass. He's like he's an assassin, he's cutthroat, he's kind of anti-hero. And then there's like he coughs on a hairball and now he's an animal sidekick for the rest of the quadrilogy. So I like that this one brings it back into him as that character. It's not exactly the same. He's not really an assassin, but in with the way that like Shrek 4 has kind of taken the Shrek story a little more seriously, this has taken the Puss in Boots story a little more seriously, and it's got this really interesting like Mexican village where the first half of the movie is set, including this flashback, and I don't know. I kind of liked it. I thought it was like a really interesting sort of Western Zorro kind of flavor to it. And it gets into this sort of naughty, twisty story that's just the right amount of complex, which I guess we can dive into now. So tell us about Humpty Dumpty, Will.
Humpty Dumpty is an egg with a face, but it's the worst. Like what you are imagining is probably about 10 to 15% worse than that. He's got these little stubby arms and legs, and his face is like Uncanny Valley. And also, he's got like this stupid little hat and like jacket he's got on all the time. I think I posited this in our chat. I think this movie would be remembered much more fondly if Humpty Dumpty just had a different design, because this character, it's not like quite a scene ruiner, but every time I look at him, I wish I was looking at something else.
Also, so I brought up Indiana Jones. This character is basically the character from Indiana Jones 4 who is introduced as a double dealer, a two-timer. Like, you know he's bad at the start, and he's like, well, I'm a double agent, so you can trust me, because I'm also on your side. It's like, that seems really suspicious. I don't think I can deal with you on those grounds. That's what I would say.
Okay, well, two things about that, Brian. One is I give a little bit of leeway to kids' movies introducing those tropes for the first time. I think that's fair. But I would say, to me, that actually didn't bother me, because I feel like it gets around that pretty well, because it really works hard to set up this idea, which is like patently absurd on the surface, but that Puss in Boots and Humpty Dumpty are siblings. They grew up together. They did everything together. They were both orphans, so they both know what it means to be an orphan and an outcast and a reject. Like, the whole point of the first half hour of the movie is to establish that bond. So even if we still continue to feel like, well, Humpty Dumpty might not be operating in good faith, and I can say, you can almost tell from the facial expressions that he's a bad guy. He's got like the conniving eyebrows. You don't give a guy conniving eyebrows if they're not going to connive. But this actually didn't bother me too much, because I feel like the movie goes out of its way to establish that this is like an important relationship. I think it would work even better if it wasn't an ugly egg. But I don't know. I kind of have a soft spot for the fact that it's just this weird, it's just bizarre. We're making the most important character an anthropomorphic, ugly ass, uncanny egg. It's just kind of bizarre in a way that I appreciated.
The initial, like the flashback meeting between Kitten, Puss in Boots, and Humpty Dumpty had probably my favorite joke in the movie, which is where Puss hasn't been saying anything for the first 5 minutes of the flashbacks. When they finally become friends, he talks, and it's Antonio Banderas' voice. Like, he doesn't have a child voice or anything like that. It's like you're expecting him to sound like a kitten, but no, it's just Antonio Banderas again. But the thing that made me most disgusted is when they're doing like the blood brother thing, and the Humpty Dumpty punctures his finger and some yellow goop comes out of his finger. That, for some reason, I was like, this is vile. I hate everything about this.
What would they bleed but yolk?
I don't know, man.
So what really bothered me is he's an egg, and what they're looking for in the movie is eggs. They want the goose that lays the golden eggs. It's just, that's too much emphasis on eggs. We're in Jimmy Neutron territory here. It's like too many chicken jokes, too many egg jokes.
It's at least acknowledged in the narrative, because he wears this terrible gold skin tight suit when they do their castle heist, and that's why the golden goose gravitates to him. because he's dressed up as a golden egg. But yeah, and
Oh.
then at the end, obviously, when the conclusion of the movie, it's revealed that he himself was, I guess, a golden egg. It doesn't make much
Okay,
sense.
that's
Yeah.
what I thought happened, but I kind of assumed I may have dreamed that in my Shrek fugue state.
Understandable. All right. So the gist of the plot is that in the flashback, Puss in Boots sort of betrayed Humpty Dumpty, or Humpty Dumpty sort of betrayed Puss in
They
Boots.
kind of betray each other.
And now in the present, they're hunting for they had always talked about finding the beans from the Jack and the Beanstalk story, the magic beans.
They call it Bean Club.
I want to be in Bean Club. And if you get these magic beans, it leads you to a place where you get unfathomable riches. So now we're back in the present, and it's a heist. It's one last job, but they're gonna reunite, and they're gonna work together and go find the beans. And also, for some reason, the Salma Hayek character, whose name is, I think it's Kitty Softpaws or something like that.
I think that's right.
She's been like hired as a mercenary by the egg, by Humpty Dumpty, the egg. Okay, so also, is this the one that has Jack and Jill? Yes, they are the other. So they're like the sort of antagonists of the film, or like it's kind of complicated.
They're the Nazis from
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
They're like Belloc contenders in the chase. And so I want to mention that this is where it really stuck out to me, but it comes up multiple times as you into these late Shrek installments. They start reusing characters, but they're like different incarnations. And there's like 4 or 5 characters by the whole edge of the expanded Shrek universe that have been duped like this. And one of them is Jill.
Wait, where did Jill previously
So when
occur?
human Shrek comes about in Shrek 2 and he's suddenly sexy, he opens his eyes and he's surrounded by women. And the main woman says, I fetched you a pail of water. I'm Jill.
There you go.
But it's a very different Jill here.
Yeah. So how does this make you feel, Brian?
I preferred the first one, but here they're quite monstrous in appearance.
If for some reason in the nursery rhyme, I always assumed that Jack and Jill were siblings. And then in this one, of the central character conflict they have is whether or not they want to have children. And so that always threw me off because I always assumed that Jack and Jill were siblings.
I
And
mean, they look like they could be.
Hmm. I kind of like the not juxtaposition. It's never juxtaposition. I like the contrast that it's like the first nursery rhyme you learn, yet they're like these brutal criminals scheming, and I found that kind of fun. So Jack and Jill are hot on their tail, and they eventually, I think Jack and Jill have the beans, so they steal the beans from them, and they use it to grow the beanstalk. And I like the set pieces with the beanstalk. This is pretty cool because the first one is you get the beanstalk. It's like it kind of tricks you. It's like, oh, I guess it doesn't actually grow, but then it shoots up into the sky. And is this one of the ones that was released in 3D? I wasn't sure.
Chances are good. It was 2011.
I bet you it was.
Okay. And then they're like climbing through the air on the beanstalk, and this is pretty cool use of space and 3D physics. Okay, then they're in the clouds, and there's the little goose that lays the eggs, the golden eggs. And so the little goose will lay as many golden eggs as you want, and they're solid gold, so you're rich if you have this goose. And the monster that's kind of on their tail is the mother of this goose, because this goose, the baby goose, is giant, so the mother goose is absolutely enormous, like kaiju size. We're back in kaiju territory, like the end of Shrek 2.
I want to see the spin-off of the giant Mungo or whatever his name was versus the giant goose. Like Godzilla versus Kong.
It turns out that Egg Fella, Humpty Dumpty, has in fact been scheming with Kitty Softpaws this whole time. Like, wouldn't you know? The guy whose whole thing is double crossed you, as Brian said. But the first time this happened, I was kind of expecting it, but I didn't know when it was going to happen, and the timing of it surprised me just a little bit. But it turns out not just that, but like he's been working with Jack and Jill this whole time, which I watching back again, I was like, this doesn't really make sense. Like there's a scene when they're stealing the beans that like I don't think it would play out this way if they were in fact working together, but that's okay. That's how these twists go.
My thought about the beans and like people fighting each other to get the beans. If somebody has already got the beans, why have they not ever used the beans? Like, how long have they had them? And why not just as soon as you get them, plant them? Do they have to be planted in a certain place?
Well, so my theory, first of all, I think Humpty Dumpty recently got out of jail, and it's in jail. When he was in jail, his cellmate, it's revealed, was Jack from the Beanstalk story. So that's how he got the beans, I guess. But when there's the reveal of the double cross, you get the funny like little montage of he says, "I was there the whole time," and it like cuts between him, and it's got this terrible face he has on as it's cutting between these scenes where he's in the background, including when he was in like a little cat suit watching Puss and Salma Hayek have their dance fight and stuff like that. I thought that was a little bit funny and perhaps amplified because of how out of place Humpty Dumpty looks in every scene that he's in. But yeah, I think the deal is the whole thing was a setup by Humpty Dumpty. The whole, from the beginning, it was all just to double cross Puss and get revenge for him being abandoned there and thrown in prison or whatever.
Right. So it's still about the personal petty revenge, which I felt actually did convey. Like I was like, oh, we've had set up from the start that they were so close early on and that it really hurt them when they had their split and sort of betrayed each other. And each felt that the other one wronged them more than they wronged the other, you know? It ends with this, all the characters going back to the village where the movie started and where the flashback happened. And the giant goose comes and they have to find a way to make the giant goose happy. And we get like he can't hold on to both the thing that will save the town and Humpty Dumpty. So he lets Humpty Dumpty drop and Humpty Dumpty shatters into a gold egg or something. What was happening here, Will?
So, yeah, it's not particularly clear. So Humpty like lets go of the thing he's holding on to, and then he falls and yes, shatters into a giant golden egg, which I'm not sure of the logistics of. I guess he was a golden egg this whole time. Maybe that it's like he's got a golden heart, kind of like they're trying to riff on that. All along, he was a good egg. He was a gold egg or something like that, even though he was, stealing from a bank is one of the things we see him do in the flashback.
So are all the other gold eggs dead Humpties?
Are they future Humpties?
Or, yeah, do they have the potential to hatch into new Humpties?
There's this whole, what is my identity brief monologue he has. And it's not really resolved what Humpty is, and nor is it dwelled on, which I think is probably for the better.
But it has an element of absurdity to it. It's like, what am I? But he's a walking egg, you know?
Uh-huh. It does feel like it's intentional. It's like lampshading it a little bit. Yeah.
Puss returns the goose to the big kaiju mama goose and becomes a hero to the town once again. Because that was part of it too, is like he had betrayed his town's values and the town that he had grown up in and that he was an orphan in with like his orphan mom saying, be a good cat and do the right thing. Oh, and also he and Selma Hayek fall in love too at the end. And we get like a reprise of their dance battle, which by the way, I think I mentioned it, but I really like the dance battle that they have at the beginning. It's very fun.
Yeah, and I like how they walk into a bar and it's going to be they're like, we're going to have a fight. And then they point to a sign on the wall and it's like dance fights only or something like that.
Yeah.
Couple of things. I like the scene. They have really good like chemistry, the Kitty Softpaws and Puss in Boots, and like when they're doing the prison break at the end, she's like, oh, now you owe me one. He's like, no, actually you owed me two, so now you only owe me one. So then she lets him go again. Like that whole sequence I thought was like a pretty charming. She's declawed, which if you know anything about pets, declawing a cat is like a really brutal procedure. Like it basically taking off the first joints of their fingers is essentially what the equivalent of a declawing a cat would be. So, I mean, it's an interesting idea, but it just made me kind of uncomfortable because of the people do declaw their cats, and it's not a particularly humane thing to do.
Well, but I think that kind of fits the story because like it's a mark of shame for her. Like she has to overcome the fact that she's essentially crippled, you know, and is still the best.
That's why she has soft paws, I guess.
Yeah. Inspired casting. You're right about the chemistry there. Like the Banderas has always been a good voice actor in these, even though I'm not wild about what they do with the Puss characters in the Shrek movies. But I think they realized they had a kernel of something there when they made this Puss in Boots spinoff, and it gives him a whole canvas to kind of carry a movie. And I think he's a good voice actor here, and then he pairs well with Salma Hayek. I'm not too sure about Zach Galifianakis though. I don't know.
I agree. But Billy Bob Thornton is Jack, apparently.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then Amy Sedaris is Jill.
Okay.
I think everybody does a fine job. And Zach Galifianakis is like, okay. I don't think he's like a net negative. Like he's convincing in his deliveries, and he kind of works as that sort of sleazy double-crosser type character voice. And one thing I wasn't sure if they were trying to pitch it as like a fake love triangle. Do you remember there's that one scene where they're dancing and like they keep stealing kitty softpaws from each other as they're dancing? And I think it was just that Humpty was trying to make sure that she didn't fall in love with Puss, but the idea of a love triangle between these two cats and this fucked up egg, I don't want to think about it. We'll just say.
Okay. That's Puss in Boots 1. We're getting there. We're 5/6 of the way done with the key corpus works. And then there's just a frightening wilderness we'll have to briefly address. Puss in Boots 2 came out in 2022, 11 years after the last Puss in Boots, with no intervening Shrek features in there. So that's a pretty long time. That's like, what was the time between Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3, Brian?
1999 to 2010, so that's 11 years.
Okay. So we're talking a pretty long time, and just like the leap from Toy Story 2 to Toy Story 3 like emphasized aging and characters getting older, so Puss in Boots 2 also, well, technically titled Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, it confronts the prospect of aging and mortality in striking ways. So, who had seen this one before this past week?
I had seen it on an airplane.
I saw this one on a plane too.
It's great. This is like a perfect airplane movie, like a sort of young adult, but like a kids movie that's actiony, and you're kind of a familiar touchstone that you might not have seen in the theater or something like that. It's like a classic airplane movie to me.
Never had I ever.
Never had he ever. So, wait, had you seen the first Puss in Boots?
Nope. It's all new to me.
Okay, so tell us then, Andrew. Were you vibing? Were you anti-vibing? Were you somewhere in the middle?
I was vibing.
Okay.
I liked the first one more than Shrek 4,
Okay.
I would say.
I'm not sure I would have said a second Puss in Boots movie was strictly necessary. This was during the DreamWorks revival. So I've written a little bit about the DreamWorks revival. I call it the DreamWorks fuck it, we ball era, which is basically they take things that are not strictly necessary or like on face value a good idea and turn it into something that's interesting and usually good and bizarre sometimes. So this was launched properly in my eyes with the Trolls movie, which was like late 2010s. I don't remember the exact number. But then they also had the Boss Baby movies, which I find very charming and in their own way. What are some of the other ones I was thinking of? I guess the Trolls and Boss Baby and Puss in Boots is enough for there to be a pattern.
I mean, they had the sequels to How to Train Your Dragon, right? When did the third one of those finally come out?
What about the bad guys? The bad guys, the wild robot, are they part of your theory?
A little bit, yeah. I think they're at least doing adventurous stuff with the animation in those. Oh, the Captain Underpants movie.
Mm.
So the How to Train Your Dragon one did come out, I want to say, yeah, 2019. So after the first Trolls, which was 2016. And then the last one is Croods. The Croods, which is like the caveman comedies. The second one of those is actually pretty fun. I feel like the key names you see are Joel Crawford and Walt Dorn. And Walt Dorn is the guy that we talked about who voice acted Rumpelstiltskin.
A visionary, pioneering filmmaker, Rumpelstiltskin.
Do you think his feet do that in real life or just in the movie where he curls his toes and they burst through the boot?
Will's going to be Googling Walt Dorn feet pics to try to get the answer.
I told you I talked to people about the Shrek movies in this week. Somebody said I was talking about Shrek 4, and they're like, "That's the one with the toes, right?" And I said, "Yes." So apparently, that's a persistent image.
By the way, the Dogman movie was pretty good. Did you see the Dogman movie? I liked it a lot.
What is the Dogman movie?
Well, okay, we're we're going down a rabbit hole here. So, Dogman was the spin-off series from Captain Underpants, and the premise is that it's a comic made by the characters in Captain Underpants.
Got it. Like Captain Underpants is.
And the Dogman character is at a hospital, a dog and a cop are dying at the same time, and their solution is they sew the dog and the cop together, and they become Dogman, part dog, part man. But I liked that one.
Since you brought those up, I have two thoughts. I know we have ground to cover, but the Captain Underpants movie, Weird Al Yankovic did the theme song, and it's very inspired. It's like exactly what you would want a Captain Underpants song to be. I was a big Captain Underpants fan back when I was in elementary school. Maybe that gets an episode someday. But I liked it because it was about the power of creativity. Like I showed it to my like aunt and uncle, and they were not impressed because it's all potty jokes, and it is like that's the source of the humor. But I was inspired because it's about kids who write a book, and the book comes to life, and I thought that was so cool. My other anecdote: there's a cryptid called the Dog Man that Andrew turned me on to.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this.
Andrew, you want to plug Dog Man?
My goodness. It's been a long time since I've been asked about the dog man.
You said that like you were a narrator to like a classic movie.
Or like an
It's
old
been
man,
a long time.
like an old man
The-
sitting on a
The
rocking
dog
chair.
man. Yeah. The dog man is what comes from West Virginia, correct?
Michigan
Dog
Dog
Man?
Man.
Or is that
Michigan.
Mothman is the
Yeah.
West Virginia one, right?
Yes,
Oh,
Mothman is from West Virginia.
You're asking a lot of me. I'm focusing on Shrek.
I don't think we're asking that much of you. What is going on over there? What's on the other side of the mic? Andrew's the only one who's got his camera
I'm
off.
so focusing on Shrek research. You came at me with Dogman while I'm focused on Shrek.
It's okay. We'll do Dogman another time.
Maybe on an episode about Dogman. All right, on to Puss in Boots 2. So they really lean into the stylization essentially, and I think overtly. Like I think they were saying, hey, we want to do the Sony Animation House style, also known as the Spider-Verse style. So, Brian, you kind of listed a couple of the traits of what a Spider-Verse style movie is, I think earlier today. What are those to you? What makes you say this is doing a Spider-Verse?
Yeah, so this is really trying to do a Spider-Verse, which I finally this year got around to seeing the Spider-Verses. Like I watched them shortly after I watched this one. So it does this low frame rate thing, like intentionally low frame rate that makes me a little seasick. It gets like choppy. But it's in Spider-Verse, I guess it's like it's comic booky. Here it like kicks in whenever there's an action sequence, so it's not all the time, but it's like when suddenly a fight will start and they'll start running, and then the frame rate will like shudder down. So I don't know, it's cool, and I think that's what people have decided is it's cool, and it's cool to do cool things, and so it's definitely visually distinctive. I was vibing with it watching it on the plane. I want to give other people a chance to talk because I was just ranting about Dogman. But my big takeaway watching Puss in Boots 2 is it has the exact same plot as the Animaniacs movie from like 2000, which was the finale of Animaniacs, at least before it got its legacy reboot on whatever it was, Hulu, was they did a TV movie called Wacko's Wish. And it's all the Animaniacs characters, but for some reason they're in like a fairy tale setting, not their normal setting, and they're racing through the woods to reach a wishing star so that one of them will get to have their wish granted. And it's like periodically checking in with the different hunting parties.
To just go back to the animation a little bit, I think it's either called animating on twos or just on twos. It's 12 frames per second because I think 24 frames per second is the standard for animation. And I think it's more of a thing in anime. I could be wrong about that, but it's definitely like a deliberate, like they have the frame rate for these to, I guess, add more impact to it. And I think it really suits the sort of frenetic style that you get glimpses of in Puss in Boots 1, and they really double down on the sort of cartoony action in Puss in Boots 2.
Brian, it's funny that you said this is exactly like Wacko's Wish or whatever it was, because in the circles that I frequent, people were saying this is really like the 1979 Soviet film by Andrei Tarkovsky entitled Stalker, which I haven't seen. I actually haven't seen any Tarkovsky film, but I just thought I thought that's where you were going with that. But no, you went much more Brian Core direction. The Animaniacs movie, that was good. So for a couple, I don't want to. We kind of talked about what it is, and we're starting to get into what the story is. Brian, you have said basically point blank that you think the best moment in the Shrek series is the best scene in the Shrek series is holding out for a hero. And I would say that until 2022, I would have pretty much agreed with you without even second guessing it. The opener in this is so good. It's like this elaborate thing where he's like, he's talking to this crowd and performing for them and talking about how great he is. And then meanwhile, he happened, like the fireworks celebrating him, wake up this incredible troll creature that's this terrific design. And it like unfurls into this multiple component action sequence that is just this real triumph of like using space for characters flying around and like really cool use of scope. And it's just an incredible animated action sequence. It's so good. And then it ends with a punchline, which is Puss in Boots dying. That's how the opening scene ends, with a giant bell falling on Puss in Boots and killing him. And this is the scene that I would say is neck and neck for me with the best movie or best scene in any of the Shrek movies. Obviously doing very different stuff than Holding Out for a Hero. Not as core to your understanding of what it means to be a Shrek movie. But I just absolutely love the sequence so much.
There's a lot of great scenes in this.
Yeah, interesting, because I figured you were going to point to a different scene, which I think maybe the thing that sort of took the internet by storm when this one came out is its representation of death and how that threads through the plot, being this like wolf character, this really menacing, like with two little sides, who does this whistling thing every time you see him on screen.
Best animated movie villain since the Disney Renaissance, I think. Like, I can't think of anyone who comes close.
I thought you were going to say since Humpty Dumpty.
Oh, since Humpty Dumpty.
Basically, every scene he's in this movie is like basically perfect. He's just so good throughout the entire thing as a kind of a secondary villain, but the real like core villain. You get the character climax of Puss in Boots when he finally has his showdown with death.
Right, because, okay, so the idea is that Puss in Boots has 9 lives, and the opening scene that ends with Puss dying is his 8th life. So he's now on his last life, and this wolf voiced by Wagner Mora, the guy who was nominated for the Secret Agent last year, is literally death. He's the Grim Reaper. And he shows up and he like the lights go out and it's all creepy and stuff. And so we've got like a strong horror element here. And it's a great design with the eyes. So apparently Ryan Coogler with Sinners, he said the thing that gave him the kernel for his idea were the wolf's eyes in Puss in Boots 2. That was like, that helped him crystallize what the kind of vampires he wanted to do. I don't know what the exact connection is there, but it's like not just us who are saying that this is great. Like this was ripples outward. And yeah, he shows up like 5 times throughout the movie. And it's great because whenever he appears, it's basically Puss in Boots gets scared and does the non-heroic thing. So he's not just like a menacing physical thing, but he's also like a powerful force on the villain in like a very intuitive way. He's literally death. So I don't know. I think it's terrific.
And it's like highlighted because the opening sequence you talk about, he's singing the songs like, "Who's your favorite fearless hero?" Is Puss in Boots. Meanwhile, the entire time we get this runner of the death showing up, and we literally see Puss's fur stand up in fear every time he hears this whistle or glimpses death throughout the whole thing, and it is very impactful. Basically, every time he shows up, you're kind of waiting for him to show up again when everything tense is happening because you know it's coming.
Well, but I almost feel that it's the opposite, is that it goes just far enough between them that you kind of forget that there's the specter of death lingering and that you're like wrapped up in the adventure. And then that comes and like gives a very plausible, it gives like a force that pulls Puss in Boots away from the
Heroism.
yeah. Okay, so then what he does is he runs away. And so he has like another sort of death. It's like the death of the self. He doesn't actually die, but it's kind of like the Toy Story 2 dilemma. So what does he do is he buries his boots and his saber and his cape, like the iconography of Zorro or of Puss in Boots, and buries it and becomes a house cat.
Well, he's actually lost his saber. He leaves it behind because
right.
Because the whole thing is Death keeps telling him to pick up his sword and fight him, but he gets frightened, so he runs away through the toilet. So he only buries his hat, cape, and boots. So he gets lost his sword.
And so we spent like the first third of this movie that's really just getting it going. It's kind of laying the groundwork for what has happened to Puss as a character. But even though I found this a little bit slow the second time through, I think it's really important for establishing where the Puss in Boots character is to make the second half of the movie have a lot more impact. So one thing is he meets this like annoying yippy little dog who's kind of ends up being like a heartwarming animal sidekick. And where the plot eventually leads is kind of like you guys were saying. It's like these multi-part, you're bouncing between different groups that are all trying to get to this fallen wish star. So you get to this wish zone, and you need a secret map to get there. So we have a heist element, so you get the map. And the 3 groups are, one is Puss in Boots and his team, which is Kitty Softpaws comes back. And then it's this, what's the name of the dog? I think that's, well, actually, I take it back. I know what the name of the dog is because he doesn't have it. And is like, what is his name going to be? So that's one group. The second group is Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. So Goldilocks is kind of like I don't know, how would you describe what she is in this?
So they used Goldilocks as a jumping off point, like the original story that the bears come home and find the girl, but then they adopted her. And now it's, 15, 18 years later.
And they're like very caring family. And so she's kind of like not a ninja exactly, but is like a physical nimble force too.
Voiced by Florence Pugh.
Yeah, it's all famous British people in the Bear family because it's got Olivia Colman and Cat's star, man, what's his name? Corden. James Corden, right? As Baby Bear?
Is he Baby Bear? I didn't even know that one. No. Samson Ko is Baby Bear.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, I'm just making things up.
Ray Winstone is Papa Bear.
Okay, I think Ray Winstone was he... this is probably wrong, too. Was he Beowulf in the Beowulf movie?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I got that one right. I saved myself.
He was in the movie Sexy Beast, I believe. And that movie is so good. You need to see that movie. Forget the name Sexy Beast. It's not what you think it is. It's just like a crime comedy movie, and it's very good. Anyways, The third faction is it's the other ostensible villain.
Ostensible. I think he qualifies. I think he's sufficiently villainous.
Fair. I guess is the villain other than death itself. But anyways, it's Jack Horner from the rhyme. Little Jack Horner sat in a corner, put his I forget what it, I never even knew this one growing up. So what is it? He puts his thumb in a pie and pulls out a plum, which is like the stupidest. They like make fun of his nursery rhyme throughout the movie.
Right, and just the idea that he's from a nursery rhyme and not a proper fairy tale, which nobody else has carried a chip on their shoulder about that. I mean, we've met Jack and Jill twice, and like they weren't bothered about that. But like the grudge he's holding is that it kind of revisits something from Shrek 1 of the difference between like what distinguishes a fairy tale creature. And like we talked in Shrekisode 1 that it's like, oh, you have to have something supernatural about you. You have to be something more than human. And so that's what Jack Horner yearns for, is to wield the magic.
Yeah, he has no magic.
So he's collected power through gathering all of these artifacts that are fairy tale themed artifacts.
And they're all housed in Mary Poppins's bag, which when we did our Mary Poppins episode, we didn't talk about the bag effect, but it's a really good special effect. Every time I watch it, I'm like, I kind of think I understand how they do that effect, but I don't really know.
And his crew that helps him out is the Baker's Dozen. There are these like special ops agents that are dressed as bakers.
And they get absolutely brutalized throughout the film.
They get wrecked. Another pretty off-putting character design, Jack Horner.
And it's undercut by the fact that he's voiced by John Mulaney.
I don't know if it is. I find him just as off-putting almost as the egg.
Yeah, well, sorry, when I say undercut, I mean like the weirdness of it almost, like I think John Mulaney being the voice plays into the weirdness of it, so it feels a little bit less like jarring to me than the egg does. Also, the whole art design is, because it's further removed from like the old Shrek style, it feels a little bit less ugly to look at, I think, even the ugly characters. And I actually really like the character design for a lot of them. Like I really like the Goldilocks character design. Obviously, we've already talked about Death. The bears all look distinct.
Yeah, no, it threads the needle more, for sure, than the look of the first one, the first Puss in Boots. So they get the map and they get into the wish zone, the dreamscape, wishscape. And this is so good. I love this so much because whoever's holding the map, the world reframes around their personalities and wishes and desires, kind of like in Inside Out, where it's kind of like reflecting things about your personality. But because whoever's holding it, it reshapes. Like you see the terrain like crumble and reassemble itself in the image of this new character. So the whole second half of the movie, the terrain is like, it's like particle effects nonstop. Like this world is constantly shifting. And it's so they do so many creative and inventive things with it. Use it as like a plot device, like separating characters and setting up obstacles and stuff. And it also gives you like a wide variety of settings. Like some of it's desert, some of it's like, I don't know, rustic, all these different things. So what are you thinking as they're in this dreamscape, Brian?
Well, it's also like one of the chunks of the finale of Gravity Falls. There's that episode where everybody's in the bubble prison that's like generated by Mabel's mind, and it's all kind of an illusion, and like it wants to keep you there, and so it's like concocting different versions of paradise for each person who steps inside it. But here it's like it's generating different obstacles for each person.
But then obviously the dog character, because he is shown to have like a very strong sense of self and be very like content with his life.
So wholesome, right?
Yeah, his tumultuous path is like the field of flowers into the hills of memory.
Yeah, he's pure of heart. It's the same thing as the stone in Harry Potter, and how it's like kept inside the mirror of Erised, that the only person who can actually take it is somebody who doesn't want it.
And they're all trying to get to the star in the middle, because that's where whoever gets there gets to make a wish. So it's like, isn't that what Dragon Balls is? Like if you get all 7 Dragon Balls, you make a wish.
Yes, but Yeah, kind of. Yes.
Okay.
I'll just say
cool.
yes.
I had no idea what Dragon Balls was.
Yeah, so in Dragon Ball, the way it works is you get 7 balls. They each have a number of stars on them from 1 to 7. And if you gather them all, you can make a wish on the wishing dragon, and then they scatter across the globe and turn to stone for 1 year. The first wish, one of the characters wishes for panties, because he's trying to like he's jumping in front of somebody else a villain who's about to wish for immortality. Generally speaking, throughout the Dragon Ball canon, 90% of the time, this wish is used to revive people from the dead who have died in the previous arcs. So there's a joke that death doesn't mean anything in the Dragon Ball universe because characters are always dying and getting revived with the Dragon Balls.
Point being that it's a wish. And so what Puss in Boots has not revealed is that he's being stalked by death, and his wish is going to be to get his 9 lives back. And in the meantime, you can kind of guess where this arc is going to go, which is that you got to live your one life, your one best life, your one sacred magical life. And this is what Puss in Boots needs to learn. So in some ways, this kind of echoes Shrek 4, which had some similar vibes. It's like It's a Wonderful Life type stuff too.
And of course, we, the viewer, have one life.
Yes, we do not have 9 that I am aware of. There's a lot of really cool sequences here, and like just always something happening. They're always doing something. So, like, one character who pops up is Jiminy Cricket as the conscience for Jack Horner. And it was commented upon that I think this is the second Jiminy Cricket. And also, for some reason, this one is just a Jimmy Stewart impression.
So, Andrew, since this was your first time watching, tell us a little bit about your impressions of this cricket.
I love the cricket. He was my favorite part.
Well said. Yeah, I mean, so he's one of these like collectibles that Horner has accumulated.
It's a conscience, which is pretty funny.
And he says it's like, go evil magical locust or something like that, and then it's Jimmy Stewart pops out, or the cricket with the Jimmy Stewart pops out.
And so he steps up to do this job where he's going to be the moral guide, the ethics arbiter, for who he gradually learns is a psychopath.
It goes increasingly exasperated about the fact.
Oh.
I love the monologue. He's like, I didn't have much in life besides, loving parents and a successful baking corporation and stuff like that.
So then they finally get to the Wish Zone, and the Wish Zone has essentially 2 climaxes, 2 climactic fights. I would say this is one of the few flaws in the movie, is that I don't know if we needed 2 of them, but I guess you kind of did need to, because there's really 2 main villains, as we've talked about. There's Death. And what I don't like is that the Death one happens first, because I care more about Death as a villain than I do about Jack Horner. But Puss in Boots has this showdown with Death and basically is ready to submit to Death because he's accepted that he's gonna just have his one life. But because he's ready to accept Death, now Death can back off, which is it's something like that. It's like a figurative concept where he doesn't actually defeat Death because no one can defeat Death, but in not constantly fearing Death, Death is less present in his life, I guess. And then we get Jack Horner becomes giant Jack Horner because he has the Eat Me from Alice in Wonderland, and he grows huge. Then at the very end, they sail off to far, far away. And we're like, oh, that's the Shrek thing. So we know we're headed to Shrek 5.
And there's a couple of funny things, like when Jack Horner is getting sucked into like the vortex or whatever. He's like, what did I do to deserve this? I mean, what specifically? And also in the background, we have the arc of Goldie. So when you said ostensibly the second villain, I think you were probably comparing them to Goldilocks and the Three Bears, who are kind of there, but they're not really villains. And in the end, they end up teaming up with Puss and gang because the whole thing is Goldilocks was like wishing for a real family, but then she realized that the bears were her real family all along. So we get a resolution of that arc as well. So, and it's a pretty, it's a good, satisfying, I think, brief, because it doesn't take up much screen time, but we get a good little arc there for the side characters. Yeah, so I think basically everything is tied up pretty well with a bow at the end. And of course, we give our dog a name, which is just means I think puppy in Spanish, right? They call him perrito or something like that. I don't speak Spanish, but I'm pretty sure that just means puppy.
Yep, little dog.
Yeah.
There's a couple other things going on here. One scene is that Puss in Boots comes face to face with his previous 8 deaths, or I guess his previous 8 lives. And this is another candidate for best scene in the movie. This is great because he's like each one is kind of represents a sort of flawed vision of himself.
My favorite is the one that's super jacked, and the death was he put too much on the bench press and got it dropped on his throat.
Right. At the end, Puss is happy to give up his wish. He doesn't need to give the wish anymore because he's gonna live the most of his one life. And then he's going to give it to Goldilocks, and Goldilocks is going to wish to have a human family, but she realizes she doesn't need a human family because she fits in just fine with the 3 bears who love her. And then they tear up the wish before Jack Horner can make his wish. I don't even remember what his wish was. Was it going to be like?
He just wanted all the magic in the world just for
right.
himself.
Right. Generic evil world domination wish.
He's like, the one thing I don't have is all of the magic in the world. Oh, and also one thing I don't think we've mentioned is that after Puss in Boots 1, apparently Kitty Softpaws and Puss in Boots were going to get married, and then Puss feels guilty for not showing up to the wedding, and then it's revealed that Kitty Softpaws also didn't show up to the wedding, and her wish was going to be somebody that she can trust, but then she decides she also has had her wish satisfied by growing to trust Puss in Boots again, and stuff like that. So again, all the little arcs get tied up.
So it ends with kind of everybody realizing that they had what they needed all along if they could just look within and around them. And so I find this pretty satisfying.
Mm-hmm. It's a classic end to stories like this, where you yearn for something, but what you were yearning for all along, you already had, or something like that.
Yeah, it's the Wizard of Oz thing, but I kind of wanted to see the star do something.
Yeah, you're right. It's a little bit of fireworks factory situation.
No, it's pretty satisfying. Reasonably satisfying.
Well, so what I was kind of hoping it was that Jiminy Cricket would get to make his wish. That's what I was hoping the twist would be.
Like he wishes Jack Horner to be a good person or something like that,
Yeah.
and then he gets resolved.
Or this evil to be eradicated from the world.
Every line that Cricket said in the Jimmy Stewart voice, I laughed. Even on the plane, sitting there in the aisle, I was laughing.
It's one of those things that just works, even though I don't know if there's a link between Jimmy Stewart and Jiminy Cricket, but for some reason, that combination works really well and is really funny. I guess it just evokes the sort of mid-century sort of naivete or something like that.
Yeah, it's like an aw shucks voice.
We did it. We made through 6 Shrek movies.
But remember, listeners, if you didn't tune in episode 1, most of us watched at least 17 things. Dan, I think, clocked 18. Will clocked 18 because he's got the retold. Maybe Dan's at 19.
I got 19 if you count the Mask of Zorro.
Okay. Well, if you count that one for me, then I'm at 18, I guess.
So what do we want to start with? I think the most obvious one would be Shrek the Musical, but and I think we can essentially go in decreasing order of significance and stop when we get bored of talking about Shrek ephemera.
Yeah, so the biggies. Okay, so I would say there are 2 feature-length spin-off things. So one of them is Shrek the Musical and one of them is Shrek Retold. So let's start with Shrek the Musical. It, as Brian said, is an actual musical, a stage musical that was on Broadway. And in 2013, a pro-cam was released. I don't know if it's the original Broadway cast, but we found it on YouTube and we could watch it there. So what is Shrek the Musical?
So it is a musical. It's a theatrical stage production. And this, to me, cemented the idea that if a media franchise makes enough money these days, it's going to get a musical on stage. And like not even just a media franchise, it could be like a person. Like if a person has earned enough money, mostly musicians, it's like, oh, repackage their songs and that'll be a musical. You know, the Michael Jackson musical, the Tina Turner musical, the Frankie Valli and the what boys does he have? The Jersey Boys musical.
Bobby Darin got a musical.
Billy Joel.
Is there? There's no like official Star Wars musical, is there?
I don't think so. I guess Disney has not leaned into it outside of their animated films.
But yeah, I'm a little surprised there hasn't been a Star Wars musical because it feels like it's kind of ripe for the taking there.
Star Kid did a Star Wars musical, but I haven't watched it yet. It was outside of the window that I was following them, but there is such a thing.
We can round robin it here on our impressions on this. I have a couple of thoughts on the Shrek musical. I have mixed feelings about watching pro cams, but what I understand a pro cam to be is just a professional quality filming of a musical.
Right, it's somebody who had permission to be filming it. So it's what they did with Hamilton on Disney Plus. It's like the official release of a recording of a stage show.
So the sensation of watching this was odd because it's like 85% just recreating Shrek 1.
It's very faithful to the first film.
And so you're getting like people saying iconic lines and recreating iconic moments. But it's kind of like what we talked about when we talked about Phantom of the Opera, or at least what I talked about, which is that when you have something that's like made for the stage and for like being performed in real time and like people physically in front of you and like physical props, and then you like move that to screen, something's lost. It doesn't have quite the same like feeling of like, oh wow, this is happening right in front of me in real time magic that going to a stage show does. And so the fact that it was like different and I would say lesser version of many of the beats that I knew by heart and the weird stagedness of it, it wasn't entirely positive watching experience for me, but I also know and pretty sure that if I saw it live, I would like it a lot.
Yeah.
And there were things in it that I thought were cool.
And a big part of Shrek 1 is the pop song Needle Drops, which you're stripping away when you're doing this original musical. It's like you can't have that. You can't have the lava action sequence.
I felt especially bad for the donkey character almost because it's like they can't. It's like they didn't want to do the exact punchlines that he has in the movie, so I was left with sort of like blue balls because every time would be almost the right punchline. It was just slightly different. It's like, okay, I guess we don't want to do it exactly because we don't want people to have their expectations perfectly met. But still, I'm like, well, there's a reason I like the original line and it's so cemented in my brain. So it felt like a really watered down version of Shrek because, you know, half the runtime is dedicated to the songs. You kind of got to skip through the plot really quickly. So it feels watered down. It does add a couple of interesting wrinkles. Like it makes Farquaad's hatred for magical things because he's the child of one of the dwarves from Snow White. And it has a song about how Shrek's family kicked him out when he turned 13 or something like that. That's at the start of the movie.
I think he's 7.
Yeah. But for the most part, it's like you watch it for the songs. You're not watching it because it's necessarily a story-wise improvement over Shrek 1.
So, Andrew, you saw Shrek the Musical live. What was your experience?
My experience was witnessing my best friend as Farquaad. Aside from that, I don't remember too much.
So your friend played Farquaad.
And in this one, Farquaad has the interesting thing where he's on his knee, like the actor is on his knees at all time. That's how they convey his shortness. So I can imagine that's a
Right, he's got puppet legs attached to the front of his upper legs.
Yeah.
I feel like that. Did you talk to him about it? Was he like really tired from doing all of that?
I should have him on call right now to answer these questions.
got to be hell on the knees. I can imagine doing that for 90 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, even if you like go to church and the pews are like hardwood and you just kneel on them for like 60 seconds, you're like, knees weren't designed to do this. I can't imagine doing a whole 2-hour play, although you're not on stage for 2 hours, I guess. But yeah, anyways.
Oh, one other interesting thing they do is don't they render the dragon as like 3 women singing or something like that?
Oh, but like puppetry.
Yeah, yeah. So the women are all singing at once to like have the louder voice, and I feel like I wondered if this was like a little nod to Little Shop of Horrors because it's the three women doing the chorus and they have this big puppet with teeth. So I don't know. That may have been what they were going for. I liked the puppet. I would say that my appreciation for this show rose as it went. I'm not going to give it an 8 like I gave to the SpongeBob musical because the SpongeBob musical took the established characters, but it was as if it were an original episode of the show. Like, it lays enough of the groundwork that if you're new to SpongeBob, you could conceivably understand it. Like, it introduces everybody, but they're not retreading an episode of the show. Whereas Shrek very much stuck in, married to the structure of Shrek 1. But where it grew on me, I liked when the dragon puppet came out. I was like, oh, okay. They put some oomph and production budget into this puppet. And then, there's like a story about what was Fiona doing the whole time that these years are passing as she's in the tower.
Oh yeah, that. That might have been my favorite number from the musical. It's the one where it cuts between three ages of Fiona. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like that she's getting burned out over time, but like still saying today's going to be the day. And we've seen that the day has happened, you know, uh, several thousand times. Yeah, 1,000 days is about 3 years, so several thousand. And but then like what really won me over is once she gets out and they're making their way through the countryside, that like coming off of the moment when Fiona's off alone and she sings and pops the bird, she runs into the Pied Piper. So maybe this is the third Pied Piper. And
Triple.
yeah,
Triple's his best.
so the Pied Piper plays the flute and rats come out to dance, and the way that they do this is they have a curtain that's lowered down almost to the floor, and the ensemble comes out and they have tap shoes that are rats. They have these rat tap shoes and they do a tap routine, and you only see the feet in the rat shoes behind the curtain. And I thought this was really good. It's like, okay, you've proved your worth to me, Shrek musical, just in this bit. And then shortly thereafter, there's a song from Shrek, who overall, I mean, I missed Mike Myers basically watching this. Most of the others is like I liked as much as their characters. I didn't like this Shrek as much as Mike Myers. But he did have a song where, like, I think it's after the scene where Shrek and Donkey are looking at the stars at night, and Donkey basically asks Shrek, has he ever wished for anything? It's like, does he actually want anything beyond just to be alone in the swamp? And he sings this song about how he'd like to be an adventurer or something. Like he'd like to actually live a bigger life than he's lived so far, and sometimes he dreams of being a Viking. And I don't know, I like when he sang this song, I bought it. And it's like I had not thought about that. It's like if there's a way to expand Shrek, what do you do? And I liked that song.
Interestingly, in the original, what's his name, Chris Farley, his version of Shrek was apparently before they redid the script with Mike Myers, was like obsessed with becoming a knight, and so that might be an interplay with that. But I was just gonna say that most of the characters feel convincing when you convert them into being musical characters. Shrek is the least convincing because of the way his character is portrayed in the Shrek films. I'm like, this guy's singing. This guy's supposed to be the Shrek who gets really mad whenever anybody is musical. And even in Shrek 4, he has that moment where he awkwardly sings a song, which is supposed to be kind of out of character to prove himself to Donkey. Anyway, I think you watch it for the songs is what I'm ultimately going to come back to for this one.
My one bit of connection here is that my kids do this acting program, and twice a year they do musicals where they perform after like 12 weeks of rehearsal. And up through third grade, they do like sort of rewritten versions of the source musical such that everybody gets a few lines. a lot of people get solos. The numbers aren't that long, but it's only like three or four numbers, and it's like a half hour or 40 minutes. So they did Shrek one year, and in the youngest group, my now 6-year-old played Dragon, and in the next level up, my now 8-year-old. As of recording this, we're actually 5 minutes away from her being a 9-year-old because her birthday's tomorrow. She played Donkey, and she sang one of Donkey's signature numbers from the musical, which is Travel Song. And it's like a sort of syncopated, almost patter style number with like a lot of words. And it's about, I mean, it's like when Donkey's singing On the Road Again when he's with Shrek. And my daughter had a solo for that song. And that's like a hard number to sing. And so I clipped it and I sent it to Brian and Andrew and Will on Messenger, and nobody reacted or replied to it. So I am officially mad at all three of you. But I was very proud of my daughter for doing that, and I need validation on my parenting at all times and my children at all times.
No replying.
Yeah. Dead air.
We can move on. All right, so what's Shrek Retold?
Shrek Retold was a project undertaken by, like, I don't know how many YouTubers. Essentially, they sliced the original Shrek screenplay or Shrek feature into, 100 different parts or whatever, and divided it between a whole bunch of different YouTubers. And they said, you make it this, like, assembly line style. We'll each make a little part. You make this part. I'll make this part, this part. I guess not assembly line style. I don't know why I said assembly line style. But they broke it up, and they're each doing a little part there. So, and then they just stuck them all together and released it feature length on YouTube. And it is an experience watching it. It is at the very least, you have to appreciate the effort that went into making it, because it certainly was a massive undertaking to probably get all these different YouTubers together and have them actually make something and then just cut it together. And I think they're in the process of making either Shrek 2 Retold or Shrek Retold 2, whatever they call it. I think it has been announced and has been delayed several times, but it's hopefully going to come out eventually, because I think this is the type of thing that the internet is meant for, is these ambitious kind of kooky projects like remaking Shrek, but with 100 different YouTubers.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. It's a art exhibit. It's not a thing that you sit down and enjoy, except to be like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I see what they did there. And it's very trippy. What I didn't like is a lot of the segments are live action, like ugly dudes acting out the scenes. And I was like, most of the animation is good. Some of it does like bad on purpose, cheap animation. But like the ones where they actually tried and had talent, I wish the whole movie was made by people who were animating and were trying hard and had talent. Because the segments where they did, I was like, oh, this is really cool. It's a scene I know, but they've like drawn it totally differently and creatively. And then a lot of it is just like a guy like wearing cardboard armor and putting his hands on his hips and talking in a Shrek voice. And it's like, okay, I mean, I'm glad that they were inclusive. It was Big Tent. There's lots of different types of creators and creativity out there, but it didn't have the magic for me.
That was the impression that I got in the first 8 minutes that I watched, which was that about half of it, I thought, oh, they put some effort into this. And then the other half, I thought they didn't.
Yeah, and I think there's some people who don't take Shrek seriously, who were probably involved in this and did not.
Blasphemy.
I know, they did not give a good and earnest effort into trying to recapture the Shrek charm. And it kind of betrays its purpose, because at the beginning they talk about how Shrek is so goofy and remarkable because he farts. And I'm like, that's not why Shrek is goofy and remarkable. He's goofy and remarkable because of his heart. And anyway, I agree with you, Dan, in that there's a lot of low effort segments, but I don't think the low effort segments necessarily detract from the status as a project, because you kind of went there where you said you appreciate it being Big Tent. Sure, I would like to see one that's just like full kooky animation all the way through. But part of the charm is that you have all these different creators, and like there's some random goofy people like Chris Chan, who's like a infamous, I might say, internet person, did a segment here. And there's like all these different YouTubers. Anthony Fantano, who's the music reviewer, I think he has a cameo there. So like you get a wide breadth of people, and part of the charm is all these different YouTubers coming together and making something that vastly different qualitative, like in quality throughout, and in kind really between the different segments. So I appreciate it as a project. As you said, it's more of an art exhibit than a replacement for watching Shrek 1.
All right. Now we can cycle through the ephemera. Well, I guess we kind of already are, but the shorts at this point. So one is, I just want to say, you pull up this list, and I'll post this list.
There's more than you think. That's the bullet point.
Yes. I think we said it last time. You pull up this list, 20. That's how many things are on the Shrek list. 20 things. 20 isn't a real number. That can't be, this is impossible. How could there be 20 Shrek movies? Well, it's mostly shorts. So let's power through them in chronological order. Did we talk about Shrek 3D, aka the Ghost of Lord Farquaad?
Shrek 3D, aka Shrek 4D, aka the Ghost of Lord Farquaad.
I think we said that it was a amusement park thrill ride 4D experience made in between Shrek 1 and Shrek 2.
So early expanded universe.
And you could buy it on DVD, and I think with like red blue 3D.
I wouldn't recommend buying this.
Well, do you remember we had this, but like the case had like dog chew marks on it? It was like the case was completely beaten up. And I was like, oh, I didn't know there was like a Shrek 3D movie. That's weird. And then it said runtime 14 minutes on it. I was like, why? Okay. So it's not really a movie.
4D, like the genre, which there's probably 20 of these, maybe more. I don't know how many, but like it's the type of thing you would go and sit in a specific booth at like Disney World or Universal and watch it there. So it's even more than a 3D movie is they just throw stuff at you in the screen. This is like they spit on you and there's like bugs crawling around and stuff like that because the seat was made to have this. So watching it is a very unfulfilling experience. It's like it's probably 2/10 of the enjoyment of watching it in a 4D scenario.
Man, what if we had gone the extra mile to recreate Shrek 4D seats for ourselves? Could have like recruited a whole like YouTube engineering team, and maybe if we really take off, we can do that kind of stuff. Get some underwriting at work.
Then you could also, I feel like the first step would be to watch the TV series because we didn't talk about the TV series.
God, you guys will not get off my ass. I did not watch like I was not that much of a completionist anyway. You guys watched more than I watched. But it's true, I did not watch the 78 episodes of the Puss in Boots Netflix show.
I mean, that was not aimed at you, Brian. That was aimed at us as a collective.
Just collective.
Yeah,
Yes.
None of us watched it, but I think Andrew was like, Brian will have watched this by next week or something like that.
No, I wouldn't. I didn't. It's not on me.
All right. 2010 is it 2010 after Shrek the Third, but before Shrek the Fourth, or whatever it's called, Shrek Forever After, we get Shrek the Halls.
I think it was right after Shrek 3. I think it was like 2007.
You're right. It is say 2007. Okay, but it's still after Shrek 3.
Yes.
Okay. So you're right. Now I'm seeing 2007 here. So there are babies. So it is post Shrek 3. This is the one that I watched in Polish. So I don't know the full story.
So we actually, Andrew and I had the accompaniment book. We had the little like picture book of Shrek the Halls.
The gist of this one is Shrek is grumpy and doesn't like Christmas, but everybody wants him to like Christmas. That's what my takeaway was, not understanding the words they were saying.
Yeah, it's like Shrek is I think one of my notes is Shrek equals Jewish in question mark because he has no experience with Christmas, whereas everybody else does.
It would explain why he has a Yiddish name.
There you go. Perhaps he was culturally Jewish, but not practicing. Who knows? And my strongest memory of this is I had one of my bullet points is Ebenezer Shrek is my
Okay. Okay.
But they play Christmas wrapping by the waitresses in the background, and in my family, Christmas wrapping is like a a meme Christmas song in my family because it was my dad's least favorite Christmas song. And there's just funny moments like we would tell our Alexa to play it.
Is that the one where they say Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas? Da 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 da.
Exactly that one. But there's funny things like we would ask our Alexa to play it and it would say playing Christmas wrapping extended version and my dad would get mad. Yes, that's my strongest memory is that they play Christmas wrapping and Shrek is either Jewish or an atheist. Oh, also, there's a brief moment where the gingerbread man is terrified of Santa, which I find funny, obviously, because you leave out cookies and milk for Santa. So his picture of Santa is like a kaiju that eats him. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's the part that I like is the monster Santa that the cookie is afraid of. And it's like a 2-minute kaiju film with giant killer Santa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was fun. All right, moving along. Scared Shrekless, 2010.
So this is the other half-hour special. It's a Halloween.
I think this came after Shrek 4, but I'm not 100% sure on that because it's the same year as no, wait. Is that right? Yeah, same year as Shrek 4. But I think it came out after. And so this one is 3 segments with a frame story. And the 3 segments are parodies of horror movies and classic horror stories. That's this one, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I like this one because they do a Psycho riff. Even though it's not a good Psycho riff, if you're making me think about Psycho, you're doing something good. And then they also have the Exorcist. I believe it's called the Shreksorcist. They really had to stretch on that one.
But it's Pinocchio, and he's possessed. We find out by a Jiminy Cricket that's different from the other Jiminy Cricket.
And then there's also the Bride of Gingy, like the Bride of the Gingerbread Man, who's voiced by Kristen Schaal.
And it's Obsession that just came out.
It's a good. I remember one time ages ago you were talking about yandere versus tsundere. This is a good example of yandere, which is one of those character types. Loves you so much she will kill you.
That one actually was like the most fully formed of the 3, the opening one.
Yeah, and it's got kind of the Return of the Living Dead thing where so he has the cookie maid who's gonna love him, but it's an obsessive love, and she's smothering, and then she's dangerous, and so then he like feeds her back through the oven again, like chops up the cookie, but then it ends up made into a bunch of cookies, and they all have the evil love magic.
Okay, then we have Donkey's Christmas Shrektacular. Okay, I logged this one so I watched it, but I am straining to remember what this one is.
Okay, so after the 2 specials, the 30-minute ones, Shrek the Halls and Scared Shrekless, everything else is like 5 minutes long. Each thing is not a full, proper special of any kind.
I also don't remember this one. I'm 90% sure I watched it, but I could not tell you what it's about.
So, oh man. I had a flash of memory of there was something in this that I liked. Oh, you know what it was? It's the Gingerbread Man plot again. The Gingerbread Man gets the best plots in all these shorts, which is that it's another Christmas party, and the Gingerbread Man is trying to protect the cookies from the people because he's convinced that they're like him.
Okay. Yes.
But they're just cookies. They're non-sentient, as far as we could tell. And at the end of this like 10-minute segment, Pinocchio goes up to him, goes up to the Gingerbread Man and says, "Why are you so concerned about these cookies? They're not real." And the Gingerbread Man says, "What do you know about being real?" Pinocchio says, "Nothing."
Oh, get dunked, Pinocchio.
Oh, wait, but this one does have the ogres from the alternate universe in it.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I remembered.
That's it.
Yeah. So we confirmed that they are canon and friends in the Shrek universe post Shrek 4, because this one I think takes place after Shrek 4.
It
So yeah,
definitely
they're
does.
singing Christmas songs. That's the gist of it. But yeah, it's only 5 minutes, so there's not much to it. Okay, we're getting there.
We didn't mention the bearded ogre lady who has garlic cloves woven into her beard, who is like a B tier character or a C tier character in that movie.
There's a lot of things we didn't mention, Will. It's an accursed time. All right, and then after this comes Thriller Night, which is basically just them doing Thriller.
Yes.
Right, but revealing that the Shrek movies have a body count. Like when they encounter the zombies, at least the first wave is all characters that have died.
So that's kind of funny because you have like Lord Farquaad, and you have the kaiju gingerbread guy,
Mondo.
and the Pied Piper.
And the king, yeah.
But I like that they brought back the Pied Piper guy because that gave an excuse for why like these characters would all be dancing together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they do the Michael Jackson thing, the arms, this and that.
And so I want to point out something I learned this week, which blew my mind, is that basically all of these TV short subjects were directed and most of them written by Gary Truesdale, who was the director of Beauty and the Beast. And like, oh man, I gotta look him up real fast. Give me just a second because it's other Disney Renaissance stuff too.
Hunchback of Notre Dame, Atlantis.
Yeah, this is nuts. He went hard. He locked in on the Shrek specials. These are Gary Truesdale specials.
Okay. We're getting there. The Pig Who Cried Werewolf. This is another short one. And it's about the three pigs who are always kind of off to the side. And one of them is like a conspiracy rear window theorist guy.
It's Rear Window. They did Rear Window.
But with like a new neighbor who is the wolf who turns into a grandmother who wants to eat them or something like that.
And I think the formula is it's Shrek but blank is viable. If you're going to do a 5-minute thing, because Shrek is already like, hey, you know this pop culture thing. That's like the gist of the Shrek humor. Except now we're doing a 5-minute riff on Thriller, Rear Window, Psycho, whatever the case may be.
And they're short enough that you don't have to think too much about them. They don't overstay their welcome.
Right. Although this does tie to something that's occurred to me as time has passed, is that I don't think shorts set in a world, like a movie world, are pretty much ever good. Like, when are they like, man, I'm glad they made that. Like, that enriched my understanding of that movie and that world. I don't know. It feels like it cheapens it more often than not. But not that Shrek needed cheapening, you know, it was already like appealing to not necessarily the lowest common denominator. I wouldn't go that far, but it's already like a broad appeal capitalistic thing. So I don't know. It's not like there's integrity here that I would feel about like the Toy Story ones. Like the Toy Story ones, some of them are okay, but I just in aggregate when I watch them, I feel like I've lessened my enchantment with the Toy Story universe, for example. Am I crazy, or are you picking up what I'm putting down?
I'm broadly there with you. I think the TV specials are pretty good. And the short subjects, it's a mix. I like the one where it's Rex with the bath toys. I like some of the shorts that they put together that like screen before some of the movies. Like the one about the what do Happy Meal toys do? You know, how do they compare to like legitimate toys? Are they full citizens? I don't know. It treads interesting waters sometimes, but you're right. It's not as weighty as the features.
I was just going to express my agreement. I think they can be a net neutral, but they're hardly ever net positive, and they can be net negative.
When Disney Plus launched and they did that wave of like minute-long Forky shorts, those sucked. Those were very bad. I
those were the funniest ones of them because they were like they weren't like stories about characters. They were just like little goofy vignettes. I don't know. Those ones didn't. I also thought they had a good sense of humor.
Okay.
But
I don't know. Maybe I don't like Tony Hale. He's got to be Buster. He's got to have an ensemble balancing him out.
All right. So the pattern is kind of that you usually get one or maybe two after each movie. So we've passed the Shrek 4 ones. The Shrek 4 ones were actually, I guess Shrek 4 had several after them because Scared Shrekless didn't come out till after that. and then you had the Christmas one, and then Thriller Night, and then The Pig Who Cried Werewolf. But then we get a couple of Puss in Boots ones. So one is Puss in Boots: The Three Diablos. So I don't know if this one is connected to the Puss in Boots TV show. There was a Puss in Boots TV show. I think this one might have been connected to the movie, not the TV show, but I'm not 100% sure. The next one I'm pretty sure was connected to the TV show. But this one, the gist of it, The Three Diablos, is that he Puss in Boots is trying to recover something, and it turns out that these cute little kittens are actually nasty. That's the gist of it. They're scary, and he's got to tame and befriend them.
I only was able to find a YouTube video of the first half of this one, so I don't know how it resolves.
I think I watched it in 2 YouTube videos, but I also don't remember how it resolves. So I think he comes back. They come back to the kingdom.
Yeah, he like finds jobs for them to do, and so they're kind of on the straight and narrow a little more. But my main bullet point for this one is when the villain shows up, it's this like French bandit named the Whisperer, and I thought he looked like me. It's like, oh, what does Michael Cera say? Oh gosh, that's me.
All right, I'm pulling up a picture of the Whisperer.
I can see
Okay,
it.
yeah.
You want that hat, I'm pretty sure, Brian. Do you want that hat?
Yeah, he's got like a Puritan top hat.
And a nice jacket. It's almost like the Gauntlet jacket, isn't it?
Yeah, I was definitely seeing, it was like, oh,
All right, then we have Puss in Book, trapped in an epic tale. And this one had like a couple of characters that I was like, I've never seen you before. So I think it was associated with the show.
this was a Netflix production. It's very tied to the show. It's the second outing that they did that was a choose your own adventure story, like the special that they did for Black Mirror.
Okay, I didn't know that because I just watched it as a video. So I found it on some like Russian streaming site, and I watched it for its 22-minute lengths, and it had like you choose 2 fates, but the one I watched, it just chose one, but it seemed like it always chose the bad one. And I was like, oh, that's on purpose. It's like because the framing story of it is like Duck Amuck or whatever it is, where there's like a narrator controlling the story, and the character is like realizing that they're in a narrated story, which I'm like, okay, that's kind of an interesting idea, but it's just very bland within that. And then it's revealed that the character that we see it was like, oh my gosh, it's you. But I didn't know who it was. I was like, so like I that's when I clocked 100%. It was from the TV show, because it's like in Duck Amuck, the big reveal is that the person who's terrorizing Daffy Duck is Bugs Bunny. And you're like, oh, that's funny. It's a little bit longer too. It's like the one that I watched was almost a half hour long.
I'm pretty sure I did not watch this one, so this is the one I missed. Sorry to all the Shrek purists out there, but I missed, what's it called? Puss in Boots storybook. Oh, Puss in Book.
Puss in Book.
Storybook Adventure, or whatever it's called.
All right. Very last one is called The Trident. So The Trident is about one of Puss in Boots' death. So this one is made after Puss in Boots 2. And so its production value and animation is pretty nice. And again, it's also very short, so there's not all that much to it. But it's Puss in Boots recounting one of his deaths while he's out in the sea. So it's like a pirate theme to the little adventure. And he ends up shooting himself out of a cannon. And he's like narrating it to Kitty Softpaws and Perito.
Right, they're saying, tell us about one of the other times that you died, which is morbid.
And it's the whole punchline is that he keeps getting saved right before dying, and eventually he kills himself by putting himself in the cannon because he wants to prove that he wasn't actually saved. He would have been fine in the end, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cute little vignette, I guess.
Yeah, inessential. I finally checked this one off last of what I watched on the master list we were working from, and one of the most recent reviews at the time on Letterboxd was in German. It says, Der Kater erzählt von einem seiner 8 Tode. The cat tells of one of his 8 deaths. Unnötiges Kurzstück, das sehr kurz ist. A short subject that is very short. Ein Bonusfilm zum zweiten Longfilm des gestiefelten Katers. A bonus film attached to the second feature film of, and I had to look up gestiefelten. It means wearing boots. Of the cat who wears boots.
There you go.
Oh, that about sums it up.
It's like when Gavin's daughter said, "In the end, the monster is lost," or whatever it was.
Yep.
All right. I think we did it, folks. If we haven't done it, we're declaring that we've done it.
It's done. It is finished.
Put it away.
The Shrekening has occurred.
How you feeling, Andrew? You Shrekened?
Is Andrew with us?
I am here. I think I can do something like that.
Okay. So Is It Good is our signature section where we give each of the too many movies a rating on our 8-point goodness scale, ranging from very not good, which is a 1 out of 8, to our masterpiece rating toward a good, which is an 8 out of 8. So I understand, Andrew, that you've ordered them. You're not going to give points. You've just ordered them. Or are you going to give the score out of 8 for each of the 6 movies? Too much for you?
We asking a lot of you.
All right. So we'll start with Shrek 1. We'll do Will, then Brian, then me. Will, is Shrek good?
I would say Shrek is fabulous. Shrek is great. And it's one of those movies where I very easily could give it a masterpiece rating on pure nostalgia. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give it a conservative 7 out of 8, exceptionally good. I think it's a fantastic movie. I think it lives up to its prodigious height, and it spawned, obviously, such a massive cinematic universe. It really does a great job of striking the balance between humor and heart that is not always maintained throughout the entire Shrek series. And it established a formula of the sort of ornery character with his, donkey as a sidekick. And most of the voice cast does a great job, especially Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy, who have great chemistry. And it's pretty smartly written for the most part. A lot of the jokes still land, 20-something years later. And there's a reason it won the first ever Best Animated Feature Academy Award, and that's because it's damn good. So I'm going to land on exceptionally good, 7 for Will.
All right, Brian, what about you?
I'm right there with you, Will. I came to the film before this week thinking, oh, Shrek is a 6. Shrek is a very good movie. I definitely have the fond memories of it, but I wasn't sure where I would ultimately land. But I figured 6. Watching it again, though, I thought this has got to be a 7. Exceptionally good, because it's clear that they planned it out and storyboarded everything, and it's got these great set pieces like the wrestling match in Duloc set to the dun, 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 which I put on my top 5 fight scenes way back when we covered that on the podcast. And just the energy is high throughout, and it's got a mix of emotions, and it's like you feel for the characters. I really dug the whole dragon sequence this time, just the raid of the castle and everything that's going on there, and getting out and tying the dragon up, and the scorched knights, and the camera movement where you see the pedestal down, and it's like the boots that just have shins sticking up out of them, like bones left over from a charred knight. And just multiple times I was like, oh, that's a little clever visual thing that they did, that this thought and effort and animation went into that. And so I think it really is quite a good film.
Exceptionally good, you might say.
Exceptionally. Shrekceptional.
So I'm going to give Shrek a very good, a 6 out of 8. And I really like it. I think a 6 out of 8 is a high rating, That's It's a very good film. I think it has a few too many, not cheap necessarily, but maybe that is the right word, gags. And I think it loses the thread on the plotting just a smidge in the final act. We don't need to relitigate all of it now, but it does some of my pet peeves of people hearing things in such a way that they take the exact opposite meaning out of it twice in a row. But anyways, I like honestly, me calling it very good, it is also like it's kind of hard to rate because it's a movie you've seen 1,000 times. How do you give an objective rating of a movie you've seen 1,000 times? You can't do it. It's hard. So,
Do you guys know the McChicken copy pasta? It's some guy talking about how he likes McChickens, and it starts with, for me, it's the McChicken, the best fast food sandwich. That's how I feel about Shrek.
for me, it's the McChicken.
Yeah.
All right, on to Shrek 2. Things is about to get fiery in here. So, Will, is Shrek 2 good?
I have kind of wrestled with this one a lot, as I often wrestle with Shrek. And I'm going to land on just a high 5 out of 8. It's a good movie. I really think that it floods it with jokes, so you lose a lot of the heart, is what I feel like. And the more I remember and think about it, the more I think that Puss in Boots, especially when you compare him to like his own movies, he really has nothing to do in these movies. And I think they just wanted to add another big budget character referencing another pop culture reference. And there's some things that are good. I like that it preserves the plot elements in several of these movies. Like his not getting along with his in-laws is a pretty mature plot story for a kid's animated movie. And I think it renders it obviously in the fairy tale lens. And I like Far, Far Away as a Hollywood riff, but just something about it. I don't think it has the sauce in quite the same way Shrek 1 does. And that could be me being blinded by nostalgia. But really, I think it just doesn't land quite so well. And it does have a fantastic climactic sequence. And I really like the fairy godmother as a villain. But just for some reason, every time I watched it, which I think was basically 2 or 3 times, I found myself getting bored in the second act and waiting for the climax to happen. Yeah, so I'm going to land on just a high 5, good.
Brian.
So I put Shrek 2 on my 100 favorite films list back when we had that. When I first watched it this week, this is the only one I watched twice this week. And when I first watched it, I was a little lower on it than I had been in the past. I thought, when Donkey's being annoying at the start of this movie, I remember that being really funny when I saw it in the theater. And it's like, I just find it annoying now. And it doesn't really make any sense that he goes on the trip with them to Far, Far Away. It's like Donkey doesn't really have an excuse to be here. They just needed Donkey to be there. And kind of the whole movie, you could argue, is inessential because they're picking at a plot thread that was firmly resolved in the first one of Fiona is content to be an ogre. But I kind of like that Shrek has to grapple with this in this movie. It does the Toy Story 2 thing where it's like now the roles are reversed and it's like all that Shrek had to learn to do in the first one was like accept love. But he's like having to show some sacrifice. And I like seeing the forms where now, what if they were handsome? What if they were embraced by the world and like took on this new form? And everything with the fairy godmother. And I like the music, I like the needle drops, and I like the original songs. And I think Julie Andrews and John Cleese are a good get. And it all builds to that incredible climax. So I'm like right on the razor's edge between 6 and 7. My heart wants to give it a 7. I don't know if that's totally merited. I'll land on the very highest 6. Very good. It was Shrek 2.
All right, and then it comes to me. So in the past, I've given this one a 4. And I feel like I need to lean into my villain arc right now because I've basically said far more negative things than positive things. Today on the Discord, we were talking about Obsession, the horror movie from this year. And I felt like most of the things I said were like, I didn't understand the story thing. It felt like it was odd that it was written this way or shot this way. I feel like it was odd that the character choice was made about this. But then like fundamentally, you could only talk about those things because it was built on something that more or less worked. And you were able to get engaged with the story and stuff. And so I think the fact that I was mostly complaining about Shrek 2 stuff is because Shrek 1 works, and Shrek 2, you know what it's going for, and it's got good stuff in there, and it's watchable, and it's got funny jokes, and it's got a high density of jokes, and it introduces new iconic stuff, and they put a lot of budget into it, and they do turn it around. But for me, it's flop sweaty. It's like it's trying really hard to be funny in a way where maybe like half the jokes are funny, but it just feels like it's overcrowded by unfunniness. On the other hand, you remember a lot of the funny things because that's what sticks with you. And it's got some real good highs. But I'm gonna lean into my villain arc, and I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 8. I'm gonna give this a not good, because if I were to say how I feel about Shrek 2, I got kind of worked up last week when we were talking about it and about things I didn't like. And at least when we were done then, I was like, I wouldn't quite call it goodish. It's not quite goodish. It's almost goodish. It's not good. It's almost goodish. But you know what? Brian gave Dazed and Confused a 4, so I can give Shrek 2 a 3. I feel as if we can mirror each other in that regard.
That's right.
And I would say Brian probably sounded more positive about Dazed and Confused in that conversation than you sounded about Shrek 2 in our conversation last week. So
So we're gonna go not good on Shrek 2 for me. Brings us to Shrek 3. Will, is Shrek 3 good?
obviously not. Shrek 3 sucks. And it's basically, I like a lot of what Shrek 2 does. I did say I get bored in the middle, but I mean, really, most of Shrek 2 works. It's pretty funny, and a lot of the jokes land. There's some dumb jokes, and some of the character choices are a little bit dumb, and like in many ways it lacks a lot of the heft that Shrek 1 has. But at least there's something there, and there's a plot to grapple with and stuff like that. Shrek 3, a good sort of summary of my feelings of Shrek 3 is the fact that Artie, who's one of the main characters, never appears again in any of the ephemera that we mentioned. There's like 15 shorts after, and we get no more King Arthur because of how much of a miss this was. The dynamic between Shrek and Arthur doesn't work. The whole core plot doesn't make any sense. Why doesn't Shrek want to be king? Why is Artie so offended that when he realizes that he gets to be king? It's like none of these, when you think about it for more than 2 seconds, none of it makes sense. On top of that, Prince Charming using a retread villain is super lame. He's like, he has all the loser nature that he has in Shrek 2, but without it being propped up by the great like contrast with him and his mom, the fairy godmother. Like the only stuff that kind of works, and this is the stuff in Far, Far Away with Fiona and the other princesses. That I thought was fine for the most part. A couple of the jokes at the high school are okay, but we go to the high school for like 5 minutes, so it's not even realized enough to get the full like extraction of the parody there. But I don't want to say it's the worst movie ever made, because it's not. And I sat through it and I didn't, want to gouge out my eyes. So I'm going to give it just a really wet fart of a 2, which is what, not good. I didn't like it. I watched it twice, and the second time I watched it, I turned it up to 2 times speed about like 1/3 into the movie because I wanted it to be over sooner. So yeah, Shrek 3, not good. 2 out of 8 from Will.
I'm with you there, Will. I'm going to give Shrek 3 a 2. I think like the biggest misstep is Shrek goes off alone with this character that we've never heard of or cared about before. And, it's a human character. It's like, I want more of the zaniness of the Shrek fairy tale stuff. And it's like, okay, we got some Arthuriana. I said at the time we covered the movie that it feels like this was somebody's idea for a standalone movie to do Camelot High School. And then they like dabbled their foot in it, and we didn't even get very much of it here. And it ended up just being a nothing burger. And it's like, okay, the conflict that I see that attaches to the other things is they've got kids now, but we don't spend very much time with Fiona at all. And so, yeah, it's like every impulse was wrong other than let's have them have kids. It's like, okay, I see that being a thing, but then it's like, okay, well, we're not sure how to grapple with that, so let's just have Shrek have some anxiety somewhere else. Yeah, not a strong installment.
So for me, the problem with giving Shrek 2 a 3 Does that means there's only one tier of separation between Shrek 2 and Shrek 3? Because I'm also going to give Shrek 3 a 2 out of 8. And pretty much echoing what you guys said, except I like the dream sequence where he has a nightmare about babies. I found that very funny and like well rendered, and the obvious highlight of the movie for me. But it feels like they just make every wrong choice and every lazy choice throughout. And I actually am gonna diverge from you guys. Some of the material with Artie actually lands for me because like it kind of hits on what I think is the most interesting idea, which is Shrek figuring out how an ogre can be a dad. And it kind of obliquely hits on that because he like tries to be supportive of Artie, but it's very, very half baked and it's not much to it. And I do like when they're at a high school, it's kind of fun. But as Will said, there's really not much to that either. There's just not much to anything that's going on here. 2 out of 8, not good. All right, Shrek Forever After. Is it good? Will.
This one definitely, this is not the biggest surprise, which I'll get to later, but this one surprised me by how not bad it was. I think by reputation, this movie is kind of grouped in with Shrek 3. But in my experience, I've had a much closer experience relative to enjoyment to Shrek 2, where I think if Shrek 1 it strikes a really good balance between the heart and the jokes, Shrek 2 leans a little too far into the jokes, and Shrek 4 leans a little too far probably into the heart. There are still some punchlines here, but it kind of feels schmaltzy at times. And like I said, some of the writing decisions are them just saying what the character arc is supposed to be, and I don't like it when stuff is so ham-fisted. But really, a lot of the emotional core of it works pretty well for me. I think we get a little bit more of Fiona and Shrek's, like, why are they together? It looks better for one thing. We get a lot of callbacks to Shrek 1, which is obviously going to work for me because I love Shrek 1 so much. And I like Rumpelstiltskin as a villain a lot more than I like Prince Charming. I like the interplay between Donkey and Shrek and showing why they had good chemistry in the first movie. And like a lot of the writing feels like they have actually thought about it more than just throwing the first draft on the screen. So really, I like this one. And I'm going to give it a decent, somewhere in the 5 range. I think this one is good for me.
It's a 5 for me as well. I was impressed by this one when I first watched it on the DVD. It's like, oh, Shrek can come back. Shrek still has juice. I think Rumpelstiltskin is a good villain. And it's got a good energy again. It's not irredeemably tainted as a franchise. So yeah, worth a watch. Thumbs up for Shrek 4.
I think critically, this one almost had as bad of a rating on like Rotten Tomatoes as Shrek 3, which to me feels preposterous.
Yeah, I think people were feeling burned out maybe of like, why did they even come back and do another one? But I feel like those people didn't engage in good faith. And Andrew, how are you feeling?
I would still put 4 above 3 for sure.
So I'm going to agree with both of you and give this a 5, which means I guess my hot take is that Shrek 4 I like significantly more than Shrek 2. And that probably puts me in a minority.
Oh.
That's not how you feel. Is that right, Andrew?
No, I appreciate that opinion.
Interesting. Because I took you to be a Shrek 2 loyalist. I kind of already gave my piece on it when we were talking about it, which is that I like the more earnest direction of the storytelling. The animation and the set pieces are way better. They really thought about like why we needed to tell this story, and in particular, it's kind of cool that they like. It feels like they're reckoning with what the Shrek monster had become, like as a cultural force, and as like this sort of bloated but neutered storytelling world or something. I do think it loses itself a little bit in the second half. And I think the ogre eyes are kind of weird. They're like overly detailed and glowing eyes. I like it. It's solid. And I think it was a good direction for the series to go instead of just continuing to water down their joke delivery stuff. All right, so to Puss in Boots. Puss in Boots 1, just called Puss in Boots. Is it good, Will?
This was easily the biggest surprise for me when watching these. So before watching all these in sequence, I had not seen Shrek's 3, 4, or Puss in Boots 1. despite the fact that I'd seen Shrek 1 maybe 150 times. And this one, to say it blew me away might be an exaggeration, but for some reason, when I saw Puss in Boots 2, I had it in my mind that Puss in Boots 1 was terrible. So I went in with extremely low expectations, and they were blown out of the water. This movie is very good. I like it a lot. I like basically everything they do with Puss's character. He feels so much more natural and fleshed out in this movie than he does in any of the Shrek movies, where he's just like a punchline machine, and it's the same three punchlines. And in this one, he has a pretty solid character arc. You get a little bit of that, like, it's still riffing on pop culture, but it does it in a more, like, homage way rather than directly, like, pointing at pop culture and laughing at it. We get a lot more, like, stylistic references to Westerns and revenge movies and stuff like that, which I feel really works for this sort of parody-heavy universe that is a little bit less beating you over the head with a hammer of references. And so this one I like a lot. I think the plot is well put together. It's complicated, but it's not jarring, and it's not too simplistic like you might expect in a kid's movie. The casting of Salma Hayek is great. Zach Galifianakis is fine as Humpty Dumpty, and he might be the most hideous character in the Shrek universe, but he's fine here. And I think his hideousness serves to aid his smarmy nature in the movie. So I'm going to land on a 6 out of 8 here. So I'm going to say this movie is very good, and Puss in Boots certainly earns its place as a spinoff in the Shrek pantheon. What about you, Brian?
So I lost the plot of this one a little bit, which I'm not going to pin on the movie. I'm just going to say that we were watching 20 films this week, and this was where I hit my lull. It was new to me. For whatever reason, it didn't stick to my brain, but I'm going to give it a safe 4, which is to say, it seemed like they had a confident new direction that they were trying for. It set this apart from Shrek, and I commend that. And emphasize the legendary adventure nature, and it's not a joke delivery machine. It's like striving for something new. And so, yeah, it was okay. It was fine. I would say if you're a Shrek completionist, don't miss out.
So I'm also going to give this one just barely into very good territory, like Will. That would be higher than Shrek 4 or Shrek 3 or Shrek 2. And I really like the flavor it has. I really like how it became an independent adventure story. And I think it really takes the character development and the adventure seriously, and like gives you something. It's kind of complicated, but it's also kind of rich. And it's so built on the brother dynamic with the weird egg guy. It's aged a little bit in the graphics, but it has a lot of sequences I really like. It just all feels right to me, and I'm just very, very engaged while watching it. It's just not what I would have expected a Puss in Boots spinoff to be. It's much more of a serious piece of story, right around when DreamWorks was really starting to get good with their storytelling. So I like this one a lot. I'm going to give it a just barely into very good territory. And then that brings us to Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish. Will, is it good?
It's almost like this movie is the full realization of what we got in Puss in Boots 1, where basically everything about that movie is better in this one. We get a better character arc from Puss. We get probably better side characters. Like when you compare Jack Horner to Jack and Jill and saying the Goldilocks and Three Bears, I like it more in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I like the MacGuffin of the wishing forest and the whole set pieces that takes us through a lot more than I like the beanstalk and everything there. And obviously, the elephant in the room is the action and like the way the animation has really been brought up to the next level. And then to top that, all of that off, you have like a fantastic secondary, primary, whatever villain, Death there, who's just like this great, menacing screen presence. And every scene he's in is fantastic. Really, I love this movie all around. There are a few annoying things, like the repeated, this happens in both Puss in Boots movies, but the big buggy eye thing they do, the cute puppy dog eye or kitten eyes, that gets annoying after about the 8th time. And Perito is kind of hit and miss whether he's endearing or annoying. It works at some points, not as much. But those are really minor complaints compared to what I think is overall an exceptional product. And indeed, I am going to give this one a 7, exceptionally good.
All right, Brian, what about you?
I'm also at 7. This is really impressive. I think I feel differently at different times about the Spider-Verse thing, but it works well here pretty much every time they do it, where it gets choppy and it gets actiony, and when he fights the giant, very good, well paced, well engineered, all the flying around and like this the scene when he's in the cave with all the crystals and each crystal has like a past him in it. I really like that. Any confrontation with death. And anytime Jack Horner is there, I was laughing. The way that the cricket is so horrified, I love that. So really a strong movie. The people weren't wrong when they hyped it, and I decided to put it on the plane. I mean, if I had to pick anything apart about it, I don't love the favorite Fearless Hero song. I think that's pretty tuneless. Like basically every other song in the Shrek series, I like more than that song. But it's a really good movie.
So I watched over 100 movies in 2022, and I had this ranked as the third best out of all of them. At one point, I had it as second best. I did some rearrangement of my top five at the last minute, and I bumped Pearl up from number 5 to number 1. And then what had been number 1 moved down to number 2. That was Decision to Leave. And then what had been number 2 moved down to number 3, and that was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I think this is a marvelous film. It's taken what started in Puss in Boots of being this kind of adventure story about an anti-hero, but like taking it very seriously and brought it to this new heights with this terrific style and animation and just the reckoning with the death. I don't know why that it works so well, but it really does. And it really grounds the character and enriches the character and makes the whole thing deeper. I just think it works terrifically. I think there are small nits to pick, which is why it's not a masterpiece. Because parts of it do get there for me where I'm like, this is just why we do animated stories. You know, it's everything visual, storytelling, fantasy, just coming to life in front of you. It's so good. Yeah, exceptionally good. And that would put it at the top of the Shrek pyramid for me. Oh man, I just imagined like an Egyptian pyramid, except it's green and it has the ogre ears on it. The Shrek pyramid. All right, so before we're going to do a super lightning round on the ephemera, but quick ranking them. Andrew, are you with us here?
I'm here.
So what have you got? What's on your list? Spill the beans.
Yeah, let's do it. Top to bottom.
Oh my goodness. I would go Shrek 2, Shrek 1, and then, oh my god, Puss in Boots 2, Puss in Boots 1, and then Shrek 4, Shrek 3.
Okay. Did that shift at all, or has that been pretty locked into place for you, Andrew?
That's been pretty locked into place.
All right. Powering through the ephemera, do we want to give a rating maybe to the features that we watched?
Yeah.
So, Shrek the Musical. So, as a viewing experience, I would give this a goodish because it's you gotta admire what the craft and they wrote original songs and some of them are good songs and there's a tremendous talent in the cast and it's a really high quality production and stuff, but just the experience of watching it as a thing on a screen for me it's just kind of uncanny, like the not right version of stuff with a couple extra songs thrown in, and filming a thing on the stage loses some of the animation magic that goes with it. But it's a cool show, and I would like to see it in person one day. I'm going to give it a goodish as a movie.
I will give it just the barest, like barely into a 5, so good. I enjoyed my time watching it, and I think it easily could go up a point or even 2 if I saw it live and with a good production, maybe with some friends. But as it is a watered down version of Shrek with some catchy songs, and I enjoy it for its production and for what it is, but I'm not going to say more than that. It gets a 5 from me.
I'm between you guys. It sounds like I'll land at a high four. I love musicals. I didn't love this one, but I like that it went and it did the thing. I mean, the puppets are cool, the makeup's great, costume's good, and I miss the needle drops. I miss some of the things that like it was originally conceived as a movie to do that can't be here in this original musical. But one thing I really appreciated is it gave more of an explanation for Farquaad. Like, what is Farquaad's deal? I think the people who wrote the musical wondered that and said, let's dig here. Let's explore a little more. And like Fiona in the Tower, I thought some of the things that padded it out to standard musical length worked well, and like actually were good innovations.
All right, Will, real quick, retold as a viewing experience, I'd probably give a good-ish two, maybe good.
It's like a 4 in enjoyment and a 5 or 6 in admiration because I really appreciate the fact that they put the effort in and put this thing together. But at the same time, it's like it's a background thing. You can't like it's a mistake to try and focus on this throughout the entire thing because it really numbs your brain. It's one of those things you look like, oh, that's interesting, or something like that. You can skip to any part and watch a 5 minute chunk and be amused by the variety. But yeah, maybe a 3 or 4 as a viewing experience, and a 6 or a 7 in my admiration for the project.
All right, shotgunning the specials here. I'll read out what they were out of the 20. And then we can like maybe give highlights, lowlights, call outs. We don't need to give numbers. The Shrek quest needs to come to an end. It needs to end at some point.
It's got to end somewhere.
All right, Shrek in the Swamp Karaoke Dance Party. The Ghost of Lord Farquaad, aka Shrek 3D, aka Shrek 4D. Far, Far Away Idol. Shrek the Halls. Scared Shrekless. Donkey's Christmas Shrektacular. Thriller Night. The Pig Who Cried Werewolf. Then I think came the TV shows. Brian, did you watch the TV shows?
Didn't watch the TV show. I missed that one, and so did we all.
Puss in Book. Trapped in an Epic Tale. Puss in Book. The Three Diablos and the Trident. Did I say the Pig Who Cried Werewolf? I'm not sure I did, but I'm saying it now.
Who cares? Who cares if you said it or not?
Okay, so as far as highlights, lowlights, I just want to single out that I thought Pig Who Cried Werewolf was bad. It's like
I hate the pigs, man. The pigs suck. They just ruin they just are there to screw things up. I think the conception of the pigs was that one joke in Shrek 1, which is funny, which is he huffed and he puffed and he signed an eviction notice.
He said it in a funny voice. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, they have the silly German accent. So I think the fairy tale characters who hang around, the wolf and the cookie and Pinocchio and the pigs, it's two guys doing two voices each. So there's four silly voices.
There's also the three blind mice who have that whole interplay.
Oh, true. Yes. Okay. Well, maybe there's one guy who does just the wolf, and if so, that's, like you said, stands out the most and is the most solid. But, I don't know. The other ones have their moments.
We kind of already talked about all of them, so I don't really have anything to add, except that if you're going to force me to spend time with these terrible, terrible creations, okay, maybe that's getting a little carried away. If you're going to force me to spend time with them, doing it in horror movie parodies is about as good a way as I can imagine. So the Scared Shrekless is kind of fun.
I was going to say, just watch Scared Shrekless and turn on the VHS and watch the karaoke dance party at the end of Shrek 1. And if you can stomach it, watch Far, Far Away Idol. Those are really the only ones worth watching. If you're like desperate for a Christmas special, Shrek the Halls is fine. All the other ones are forgotten after this Shrek extravaganza ends.
If you're desperate for a Christmas special, just watch Shrek again, the original.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with Will on pretty much everything this episode, but especially what he just said about the TV junk. that Scared Shrekless is surprisingly underrated. Like, you probably have not heard of Scared Shrekless outside of this episode.
Unless you know ball.
If you did, kudos. It's pretty decent. I like that they go back to Duloc. Like, I don't understand the geography of the Shrek world because, okay, you got Fairy Tale California that's far, far away. Well, where is Duloc? Where is the swamp? How far is it from the Duloc Castle? And how come we never see the Duloc Castle again outside of Shrek 4D and then finally in Scared Shrekless? But like they go and they're like, oh, let's hang out here because Farquaad died here. And I guess the whole kingdom went to like seed when Farquaad died. Like, weren't there other citizens of Duloc? Like, what happened? I don't know, but I'm glad that it kind of wrestled with it, and they go here and they tell their stories, and the gingerbread story is fun.
Andrew, are you still with us?
I am still with you.
So I recall you feeling that Far, Far Away Idol is essential. Any of the shorts you want to call out? Is that your favorite, Far, Far Away Idol?
I mean, to say it's my favorite would be sort of bold.
Well, this is your time. You can say any of them is your favorite or least favorite.
Oh, they're all my favorite, obviously.
The deed is done. Anything else we have to say about Shrek? Any last words on Shrek, Andrew?
I don't think so.
So, for our next episode, we're just going to be watching one movie, unless we feel the spiritual fire. I guess there are opportunities we could watch more than that, but only one we gotta watch. But it may invite consideration of others. We'll see. We'll see. We don't have to go crazy. I am gonna have a friend join us from. I know him from William and Mary, where I went to college. His name is Zan Gillies. He recently won an Emmy. And he is going to be telling us about the deep depths of the Rankin Bass Christmas universe. And it's not unseasonal because the film we're going to be focusing on is sort of their Avengers Endgame. It's where all the elements came together in Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July.
Just one more thing. Obviously, for the Grinchesode, I rewrote the Grinch, but about the goods. I recorded a cover of All Star where I wrote the lyrics to be my review of Shrek 1. And it didn't feel timely in the moment for me to play it here, but I will send it to Dan, and if he so chooses, he can append it as an outro of this episode.
All right. I have a broader take. I'm trying to find the right time for it. I can just say it now, which is that I was listening to the playwright Tracy Letts, who's also an actor, on a bunch of podcasts recently, and he has a take that we don't need sequels just for movies. No sequels. What value do they bring? How like what percentage of sequels actually are you glad that they made that sequel? The number is very low. Granted, a couple of my favorite movies ever are sequels, but this Shrek week had me wondering, what if there were no sequels? How would I feel? I don't know. I'm going to reflect. That's going to be one of Dan's thinking points over the coming months. What if there were no sequels?
Be different.
I was going to say, is a spinoff a sequel? Because then...
Unformed, undetermined.
Yeah.
The theory is not fully formed yet.
I think we've talked about enough things, so...
All right. Well, thank you guys. This was a bold experiment, and we'll see if it's listenable.
It's been a big undertaking, so thank you.
I will listen to it when it gets released at the very least, even if no one else will.
See you all later.
Take care, guys.
Have a good
Thanks
night.
for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
This is the Shrek review song. Take 7. My brother, he told me the goods were gonna host me. The topic of the podcast is Shrek. It's a great chance to go over my fondness for the ogre. His film's best features I do respect. Yeah, the films start running, jokes don't stop coming. The first needle drop sure is really something. A fairy tale world turned on its head, lampooning every book as a child you read. Donkey and Shrek in chemistry, they go off to get back the swamp steed. Farquaad sends them on a journey to save the princess from the keep. Hey now, he's an ogre, he's got layers, parfait. Hey now, there's a dragon, our donkey's gonna get laid. A princess who is in need, rescued by the ogre and his noble steed. On the trip back, they learn more about Fiona. You try to pick a fight, she's surely gonna own you. When the sun goes down, she hides away, keeping the truth of her curse at bay. She's growing on Shrek, becoming fast friends. Her crass sense of humor wins him over in the end. Donkey learns the truth, she breaks down. Shrek hears them talking and he feels cut down. Hey now, she's an ogre, she's got secrets, cursed nights. Hey now, the trip is over, they get the swamp back, that's right. But Shrek realizes he's lonely, he misses the princess and donkey. This was just supposed to be one verse, but I kept on going and I realized one verse wasn't enough to say everything that I feel about Shrek. Thank you to Goods for hosting me. Thank you for bearing with me on this silliness. Hey now, here comes Donkey. In the swamp they both fight. Hey now, they'll never make it, but with the dragon they might. Shrek admits he loves a princess. Time for him to tell her. The wedding day crashed, so Shrek, he can't object. He wants to marry her in Farquaad's place. The short man laughs, Shrek gets attacked. Then the sun, it begins to Shrek, and Fiona, she begins to change. Well, the ogre share kisses and she is his missus. Donkey sings a song and I feel all kinds of blisses. Credits start to roll and I bask in awe. Timeless crass humor and feeling so raw. So much to love, so much to unpack. A brilliant score and soundtrack. It all came together in the end. A massive legacy it did extend. Hey now, it's a classic. It makes my heart warm each time. Hey now, I'm feeling drastic. I simply love it. Sublime. It's time for me to rate it. Exceptionally good. One of my favorites. It's time for me to rate it. Exceptionally good. One of my favorites.